Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me. It's live, it's Saturday night. We are going to be doing live astrology readings this week, tonight. I'll give everybody a couple minutes just to get in. Those of you guys who are new to my channel, welcome. It's nice to meet you. Those of you guys who are subscribers, members, welcome back. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully your weekend is going well. Super stoked to be doing the live readings. If you're not aware of how this works, all readings are going to be on a donation basis. So you can ask any question you'd like about astrology. In order for me to look at your natal chart, I'm going to have a couple pieces of information. So to cast the chart, I'm going to need your exact birth time and AM or PM, please let me know. I also need to know what city, state, and country you were born in, along with your full birth date. I'm here in America, so if you can spell out the month in case you are overseas, that's really helpful so we don't have any errors on my part, because sometimes I get a little confused. And if you can put that information into the memo when you make your purchase or your donation. So there's a QR code right here. We also have going across the banner information on the PayPal link. We have it probably pinned at the top of the chat. I know it's all over here, so if you can't find it, probably the easiest way is just to scan that with a phone if you're on a tablet or on a computer. Ask whatever question you'd like, and it's going to be a $40 donation. This can be about like natal aspects, questions you have about a transit, just areas of your life that you want more insight in. Realize that astrology is going to be more so for like understanding, timing, what you're going through psychologically, what signs maybe you're looking for. So questions would be like, when is it a good time for me to quit my job? You know, does it look like it's going to be smooth if I move? But we're also doing Synastry questions. So if you have questions in regards to another person, we can actually put the two charts together, and I can talk a little bit about the relationship and how you guys are together just to better understand what's going on if you're having an issue in a relationship or just in regards to another person. So as always, we're going to start today with the level 3 subscribers. So if there are any level 3 people here that would like to get their reading, let me know. I'm going to go through the memberships and just give a shout out and say thank you to everybody who have been members, all of the members. There's several different levels. If you guys want to join, you can just donate. If you want to donate, get on the first level. If you enjoy watching my videos, my weekly videos, my astro weather, I've got lots of free content that I'm putting on the channel now that a lot of other not astrologers, but a lot of people who are going to the length for those horoscopes usually are having to pay for a subscription for that. So if you guys haven't seen March's horoscopes, it's like 3 hours long. Then we also do the weekly videos, and I'm also doing monthly addresses, and I'm just creating more content for you guys now because we have more subscribers to the channel, so we're getting more traction there. But also stuff like these readings that we're doing on Saturdays, it's making it possible for me to do lots of other things. So just so you guys know, your money's going towards lights, getting new cameras, mics, other things. And now something that I'm getting ready to put out, actually we just started putting it out today. My beginner's astrology course is out. So those of you guys who are like, hey, I really like the way that you read. I want to understand how to make astrology work for me in very practical terms, and you want to use astrology the way that I do, or maybe you want to learn a little bit more about astrology, check out my links below. We definitely have it posted. It's on my social media. It's on my website. And you can find it also, probably we'll pin it in either the chat or we'll pin it somewhere within this video. So take a look. That's out now. The classes are going to start on April 3rd. It's going to be on Wednesday mornings, excuse me, let me take this back, Sunday mornings Pacific time. And it's also going to be taking place on Thursday evenings Pacific time. So we're going to be doing 7 introductory lessons. It's going to be a part of a package course. You can study with me live. So I'm actually going to be doing about 90 minutes-ish of lecture, and then we're going to do Q&A after. So you can ask questions, you can interact with me. It's going to be in an online digital setting. So if you can't join for whatever reason, you can also do study at your own pace. So you'll be able to kind of follow along with a link. So I know some people are in other parts of the world, or their schedule is not as flexible. but you can still kind of benefit from that. I'm doing $100 off the course for people who want to take this, because this is the first time I've been teaching in a couple of years. I have had private students, but now I'm opening this up and I'm going to start teaching more and lecturing and bringing you guys webinars pretty soon. So I'm super busy. There's lots that goes on behind the scenes to make the production and stuff happen. And those of you guys who have been watching my channel for the last several years, there's been just a substantial amount of growth, obviously, in traction with people now. We're creating like a really awesome kind of like just community, right? I mean, it's like I see you guys now on the live chats, or I see you guys pop in on the comments, or I see you guys chime in on stuff that I'm posting on Facebook or on Instagram. So it's like really awesome to see that. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the support. And even if you're like, I just watch you, thank you. You don't have to donate. Just watching and being a part of the community is super helpful. So I'll give a shout out to everybody. Hey, Paula, I saw you join my class list. Hey, Malaya. And Angeli popped in to say, she came here to say how excited she is about being my student, and then she had to leave. So if she watches this, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me give a shout out to all my level 2 and level 3 people, because man, we got a bunch of them now. Jackie, Catherine, Angeli, Deanna, Hera, Nancy, Phoenix, Jessica, Emma, and Susan Wexler. Thank you guys so much. Of that group of people, specifically the level 3 people, if any of you guys are here and you want to get your reading, please let me know. We are going to start doing the readings now. I appreciate your guys' patience, because I do, it takes a little bit longer to do the astrology readings, so don't worry. I'm not going to overlook you. Sometimes it just takes time to go through the line. We've got about 3 or 4 people who are already in the queue. If you do send me a PayPal, please just let me know, and that way I'm not kind of getting lost in the sea of all of the messages. And equally, if your name differs on PayPal from YouTube, please let me know. That would be very helpful. Okay. So, appreciate it. Got all this stuff out. Very excited. Okay, Paula's got a question today. All right. Go ahead and shoot, Paula. Let me know what your question is. I have your information, so I will pull it. So I will spare you from having to plug all of that in. Hey, Swats, what's going on? Paula, so I'm going to start inputting all your info. Paula, go ahead and let me know what your question is. December 9th. And that was 1970, 4:02 p.m. All right, so I got you up here, just general. Thank you. I appreciate that heartfelt vibrations. I saw you. I got you. Naomi asked, will you answer astro-cartography questions for travel? Sure, I'll do that. Although I don't have that software on my my pad, I have it on my laptop. So if you ask me the question, you're not going to see the screen. But if you want to ask me a question about a specific line or where it would maybe a good idea to travel to, yeah, I'm happy to do that for you. How's the month going to go? Remind me where you're currently living. What city are you currently in? Because I would actually like to look at your lunar return. Because I'm not, you know me, Paula. I'm not gonna bullshit you. But your last lunar return, and this is when the moon came back to where it is natally, it was just coming out of a square with Venus and Saturn, with Venus and Mars. And then it squared Saturn. So your lunar returns may still be a little uncomfortable this year when you see planets in the first degrees of the fixed signs. So I'd like to look at your lunar. Okay, perfect. I'm going to do that right now. That's going to let me know what's going to happen this month. But before I even get into the lunar return, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on for Paula specifically, because she's asking about the month ahead. So today is the 12th. Okay. So what's setting up in your horoscope is just a gangbusters of planets that are moving into your 10th house. Okay. Whole sign, you're going to hear people say it's the 9th. So it can be things like learning, traveling, legal documents, paperwork, talking to attorneys, making plans to travel, starting courses, learning things, purchasing books. It's like all getting activated for you, particularly in Aquarius. But it's your 9th house and how your 9th house relates to your 10th, right? Because I'm a Placidus reader. So I see this more as actually like just really showing up, right? Over the next month, you're going to see Mars and Venus move into your Placidus 10th, and it's all going to be conjunct Saturn, sitting on your North Node, and squaring the nodes. So that's a lot. That tells me that there's just a lot of showing up for like who you are in the world, being an authority figure. The 10th house can be everything from being a boss to being a parent, to your obligation and your responsibility to what? Society, right? 10th house Aquarius, your friends, your destiny, your future. Like me, you have a North Node in Aquarius. So this is a very kind of pivotal turning point, because this is when you're really showing up and you're doing something collectively. So I can't think of a better thing to be doing than a group astrology club and like participating with other people. That's very 9th, 10th house Aquarius. But I think that it's going deeper and looking into what realistically needs to happen and how you're bringing people together to help you better define what it is that you're doing with your career. So there's big deciding things that happen. It's great energy for a Gemini rising, because it's really going to help you communicate, share ideas, talk, learn things. It's really great for a Sag sun, because it's going to make a positive sextile to your sun. It's going to open things up for Sagittariuses, and new vocabulary, new ways of communicating, new ways of understanding. So actually, even in spite of the fact that planets showing up conjunct Saturn are pretty serious, planets showing up sitting on your North Node are also like really kind of going into the future, sometimes uncharted territory. And on top of all of that, you have the North Node and the South Node squaring. So when I see planets square the nodes in transit, it's just basically reiterating like, oh, you know, you got to do something. We got to integrate something new now. But anybody else who's watching this, if you have planets that are anywhere, you know, really, I mean, like really, the fixed signs that I think are going to be probably the most prominent is anything between like, let's say 12 and like 28 degrees of the fixed signs. That's a pretty big range, I know, but you guys are all going to be experiencing the conjunctions to Saturn, squares to your natal fixed placements, and also squares to the nodes. So you don't really get a pass when planets square the nodes. You don't really get a pass when there's a Saturn conjunction. You don't really get a pass when there's transits on your North Node. So to be honest with you, like I would go almost as far as saying that if you reflect back on what was happening in your life in like 1992 and 1993, okay, that was the last time Saturn went through this part of your chart. It was like a lot of growing up, right? Like a lot of growing up. And it wasn't just because you were like, okay, I'm in my 30s and now I'm adulting. It was more actually for you because it was about showing up and like learning how to manage something, 10th house. So what were you doing then? Reflect on that. Were you managing kids? Were you starting a new career? Did you have a new identity? Were you like, oh, I'm married now? Something pretty important was happening. Now, your North Node's at a 26, so that is very specifically talking about like Taurus-related things. So maybe finding new ways to manage resources and money. Maybe you're wanting to go and hire an accountant or talking to somebody about investing in your business, so you have to come up with a business plan. Maybe you're just taking more responsibility for your career in general, and you realize in order to make things happen, you need to hire a team of people or professionals to help you with Aquarius-related topics. Remember, the dispositor is Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius. So I'm looking at Uranus, you know, eventually building into a square with the nodes, which you will have not for a little while. That's not going to happen for about another year and a half, maybe 2 years. But still, you know, you're getting hit from both sides. So there's a lot of, in your life, February, March, April, May, really finding all the missing pieces to the puzzle when it comes to your career stuff starting to come together. And it's going to require discipline. It's going to require commitment. It's going to require you possibly being a little bit more focused when it comes to your time. I also get the impression that all of this sequence of planets hitting your North Node, squaring your Saturn, is saying, hey, you got to let go of the fear of what about resources? How am I going to pay for it? Is this a good investment? It's more focusing on what you can actually accomplish and thinking for innovative things in the future, okay? So go, if you haven't listened to my horoscopes, I talk about it for each of the 12 signs. It breaks it down, how it's going to affect you. Yes, you are a Gemini rising, but I would actually say, for the sake of the predictions, listen to Taurus because it's happening in your 10th house. I know you're not a Taurus rising, but listen to Taurus because that's where it's kind of playing out. You may listen to Taurus and Gemini and see a little bit of both, right? So like I said, I've been incorporating like more whole sign into my astrology, because whole sign can tell us where it's going to go down, but Placidus is how it affects us psychologically. So to me, to put it in simple terms, you're learning new techniques and innovations and changing what it is that you believe in when it comes to your career, or maybe adding new tools to your toolbox that is going to allow you to really, I think, expand. And so that can be anything from organization, management, new technology, new training, things like that will factor into it. Even astrology, and you may end up using the astrology and learning more. I know you've taken astrology courses and stuff, but you may end up learning more about how to use astrology in practical terms, and like when to launch things, and like what periods are more successful, and what it is that you're working with when it comes to your personal astrology, so you can see success. I'm imagining that's how you're going to use this. So you're going to start learning new techniques to be able to do that. I would imagine that a lot of what I just told you is going to reflect on the lunar return, but I'm just going to cross-reference that really quick. Those of you guys who don't know what a lunar return is, you can basically look at what is happening based off of the moon returning to where it was. So you just had your lunar return on the 7th. I'm going to base it off of that because that's going to take you really into next month. And you can kind of read this similar to a natal chart. It's going to be more so just letting you know the themes for the month ahead, okay? So it looks like your lunar return was in the evening on the 6th, about 6 days ago. So you're coming into your first square where things are going to start changing. Libra rising chart, so the focus is on partnerships, relating, values, fairness, equality, balance. But with that chart, okay, it's inverted. So where Aries usually is, it's Libra. So everything feels a little backwards. There's a lot of having to kind of find balance this month, checking in with other people. The themes of the month can be more relationship oriented, right? But what a beautiful lunar return that you had with Jupiter and the Sun and Neptune in the 5th. Wow. And when you had your lunar return, it was right when Mars and Venus ingressed into Aquarius. So you've got those two together. So it's saying, hey, you've got something working in your favor. Communication becomes freer, it becomes easier. You can interact, I think, with people a little bit better. And I'm also looking at the moon in the 7th, very relationship oriented as well. And it's making a sextile to that Jupiter, Sun, Neptune. I would imagine that maybe it's just relating more to bringing the romance back into your life, going on date nights, spicing things up, maybe feeling more creative, dreamy, whimsical. Notice that all of those planets are sitting in your 5th house. There can be like feeling like you're falling in love again. There can be more creative inspiration. The moon is supporting the Sun and Jupiter as well. There's a sextile there. So a lot of 5th house, 7th house energy. I think you're going to feel more inspired this month. I think you're going to have nice interactions with your children. I think you're going to have relaxing time with your kids. It may be more peaceful. And there's just a lot more of you going back with a romantic partner, possibly even planning a trip or maybe a vacation. I wonder if this is like you giving yourself more free time to create and like really lean into that. So that way you feel like you can actually possibly have more to offer when it comes to new business ventures and things of that nature. So I mean, it's a really great chart. Where it's getting banged up though is that the moon is in a square, a 10-degree square, but it's to Mars and Venus. So that's a lot of like, you know, what you want, other people may not. You know, it's like you're sitting down to watch TV with the kids and like you want to watch, you know, something that's like on Netflix and they're like, oh no, I want to watch a movie. There's going to be issues in regards to preferences with partnerships this year. But Mars and Venus conjunct is pretty passionate. I do feel like you can be very passionate about what you're communicating, talking about things like that. Notice that you have almost like your 10th house that moves to your 4th house also. So all that Aquarius energy now is actually kind of sitting in the 4th. So you're talking to your family about where are we going? Maybe you're developing a business that your family is involved in. Maybe you're really focusing on working from home. Saturn in the 4th house is kind of like meh. It is trining your ascendant. Mercury is trining your ascendant. Just as a Libra rising who's been going through these transits, here's what I'll tell you. It's a lot of like, if something feels like it's uncomfortable at home or with family or anything like that, you got to talk about it. You got to use that air element. So I think that it's going to be really good for you because air fuels fire. It's going to help you actually, you know, communicate in a way that's like, oh, you don't agree with me? Okay, great. Thanks. Take care. And not having strife. But also there can just feel like there's more home and family obligations going on this month than usual. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know how it plays out. I would love to hear. I'm sure you will tell me all about it. Okay, cool. So thank you for those of you guys who have waited. Let me go ahead and pull up the PayPal. I haven't seen any other third house, any other level 3 people pop in. So I'm going to go ahead and work off this list of people who have put stuff in. Yes, I am, Maria. Go ahead. If you have questions, you can send it to PayPal. Let me know if you do. So in this order, I've got Chloe. Sometimes people don't want me to say their name. So Chloe, Heartfelt Vibrations, and Miranda, Swats, and Malaya. So thank you guys. Appreciate it for being patient. All right, so let's go ahead and get into Chloe. Question for tonight. Let's see. So she lives in the UK. 29th of August, 1985. And that was at 12:39 a.m. And that was in Bristol. August 29, 1985. Okay. She wants me to look at a specific date, which is fun because I don't always get to do that. People don't always give me a date. Usually I give them dates. So my eyes get very curious when I see that. She said, can you please look at my chart for April 5th, 2022 at 12:39 a.m. Saturn conjunct Mars, conjunct natal moon on exact, Saturn square natal Saturn, opposite natal Mars, Sun trine ascendant, Mercury trine Mercury, not to mention the nodes, and natal Saturn. Definitely in need of astro guidance. Thank you very much. Got it. Saffron Sage. Oh. Is it under a different name? Let me know. Oh, Wise Oak. Yep, I see you. Thank you, thank you. Got a long list. Sorry, guys. PayPal's kind of weird when you scroll. It doesn't always let you see everything. Let's see. Wise Oak. Let me reload this page. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Just want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Yep, I see you. Don't worry. I got you. Thank you. Okay. So, going back over to Chloe. So she wants me to look at April 5th, 2022. Uh, 12:39 a.m. So that's going to be actually the 4th here. So what time is that going to be? Can you give me a time conversion on that? For London, yeah, it's going to be general. So London at 12:39 a.m. So then that's the 4th, but I just don't know what time. 4:39 p.m. Okay, thank you. 4:39 p.m. Got it. Okay. All right, so she's asking questions about, if you look at where Aquarius is, if you guys are following along, you got Aquarius in the 5th house where Saturn and Mars are meeting with Venus. Very interesting. I think I have some of the same questions for you because I'm having the same transit in the same house. Holy smokes with the fixed squares. I guess the one thing that I would say is that you want to take into consideration your annual perfection. So this year you are 30, I'm trying to do math. Sorry, my brain's fried. 1985, so you're 36. So it's going to be a 1st house annual perfection year for you. So that's really important because it involves Venus on your moon. I guess the one thing that I would say is possibly pregnancy, right? Like it's very possible because you've got Venus very close to your moon. Your moon is at a 5. Now, it doesn't always mean that it can be, it doesn't have to be you getting pregnant. It can be the birth of a relationship, a birth of a project, a birth of something that you're in love with. And I can see why you're asking me this question because it's incredibly complex, and I'll try to answer it in the most condensed version possible. But personally, this is something that can't really be unpacked with one question, right? Part of the reason is you've got planets that are in the mid degrees of Scorpio that's getting nailed. You've got planets that are in your 8th house that are opposing it and opposing your Saturn and squaring transiting planets. And then it's also squaring your Mercury and your Mars. This is going to be a year for the books. I guess the best advice I would give you is, and this is how I'm handling it in my life, you have to take things 3 months at a time this year, okay? Because there are things that you want to accomplish in July or August that you don't have the resources for or you're not prepared for. And if I were to look at it, you know, these are fixed houses. It's not just fixed signs. These are fixed houses. So the 5th house has an energy of Leo. It's performing, creating, showing your talent, showing off, falling in love, and really being a star in your own life, right? That's really what this is about. So when you have your 7th house Lord, Mars, and your 4th house Lord, Saturn, come together in the 5th, the astrology is saying, what are you going to create? What are you going to do? And it can be a moment where you shift gears, and I could see where the squares to Saturn. This is your first Saturn square since your Saturn return. So have you been really focusing on doing work just to pay the bills, right? Pluto, South Node, Saturn, and Scorpio. Because you're afraid of resources? Has it hindered you from really exercising certain talents that you have? Have you been afraid to invest money? I could see that because there's this fear that if you lose it, you know, what do? Girl, you got North Node in the 8th house in Taurus. You got Uranus on your North Node. Also, Uranus rules your 5th house, which is about falling in love and pregnancy. Great time to start looking at like astrology, studying astrology, learning about archetypes, learning about, I think, how that relates to some of your natural impulses and what you respond to. Because you've also got Uranus that's now coming out of a square with your Jupiter. So I could see possibly feeling the clock and being like, oh my God, I need to get pregnant. Saturn and Mars showing up. Like I said, I have some of the same questions for you because I'm having the exact same square in the exact same degrees. And I feel like a lot of what you're doing with this conjunction, you've already gotten a preview, right? Like you've had Saturn here for the last year. You had Jupiter there all of 2021. You also have had a Mercury retrograde there. So there's been a lot of preparation and trying to feel like you can do things that bring you more pleasure or that they're more pleasurable, or finding ways to feel the love, right? And this is not going to be comfortable. Like, I'm not going to candy coat it. I'm going to be super honest with you, because when you see the fixed squares, if there has been resistance to this since your Saturn's return in like actually doing this work, then it's going to feel uncomfortable. And I think with the nodes being involved, it's saying like, go and focus on stuff that you're really passionate about, something that you really enjoy doing. It can be a hobby. It doesn't need to have a purpose. It really should be, the focus is doing things without intention of feeling like you need an exchange. It's taking risks. Go and learn about the stock market. Go and learn about cryptocurrency. Go and learn about astrology. Go and try to meet people if you're single and date people who are unique and different. Focus more on friendship, not necessarily on romance. You might find that you end up meeting your best friend, right? The list can go on, but this is one of the few times, if you guys have seen me do these lives, I don't get stumped. And it's not that I'm stumped, but I could go on for an hour talking about this, and it's incredibly complex to the point where you really need someone to sit down and go, here's the deal. Here's what's going to happen. This is what's going to take place all year. These are the times that it's going to happen, and these are the turning points. I'll give you some clues. The turning point has been 2 years of preparation for something, okay? Trying to find the person that you want to fall in love with, or spend your life with, trying to launch your own business, trying to learn astrology, trying to get pregnant, whatever. It's something like that. And now is when you really show up that time. Don't fear the transits. People have transits happen all the time. You'd be surprised. I'm sure some of you guys have had Saturn and Mars stuff or Pluto stuff. You know, we don't need the chart always is confirmation, right? Sometimes clients come to me and they just go, the number one thing I hear is, something's going on. I don't know what, but something's going on. And sure enough, it's a Pluto transit, it's a Uranus conjunction, it's a square, and something that got triggered, but it's already been brewing. So you should have an idea of what the topic is. Then when you get to transits that are going to start happening specifically in the month of like May, right? April going into May, Taurus season. That's when you start to see the physical change. So let's say you take a chance, you put money in a crypto fund, you invest in something, and then you're going to see how it's going to pay off more so in May, right? It can be that you go out and you have a couple drinks, you have a one-night stand, fifth house, you get pregnant. Oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, and then you're trying to figure out like, how do I afford this? Do I know this person? Do we have insurance? Stuff like that can happen. So May, it will be a turning point. Eclipses are really going to trigger this as well, because you're also coming into your nodal return. So there's that. And then when you get to July and August, when all of the planets go into Leo and reenact again this grand fixed cross, just be prepared. Every 3 months this year, you're going to be like, holy shit. Like, you feel like you've gone through about 12 years of astrological lessons compacted into to some really crazy things. Personally, I have to say, I think you might meet the love of your life if you have not already, because Venus is about to activate your moon, and then Mars is going to hit your moon, and it's at a 5. Can be a younger person, can be something really romantic, but it actually could be pregnancy. To confirm this, we would actually have to look at like your progressed chart and a couple other things. I would say Pluto's getting pretty damn close to the opposition with your Venus. So if you've been afraid to make changes in your career, I would say, give it up, girl. You don't have a choice. You can do it the easy way, or you can do it the hard way. The hard way would definitely be when Pluto opposes your Venus over the next 2 years, and maybe you wait until the nodes square it next year. But why not get the show on the road and do stuff that you're really passionate about now, right? That would be my advice to you. And that's somebody who's going through the same transits. I'm having to do the same stuff. That's why I'm focusing more on this. Some of the best things I've done the last year with the Saturn transit has been me just being like, I really enjoy this. I don't give a shit if I make money. This is what I want to do. And those have been the things that I've touched that have turned to gold. So my advice to you would be focus less on the money, focus less on what you're going to get from it or how long it's going to take. Focus more on, oh, does this feel like it's bringing me joy? Well, all good things, you know, are worth working for. And there's this sense of achievement that's going to come with whatever it is that you complete. So definitely book a reading. I think that would be really helpful for you, even if it's just like a 30-minute reading, to have somebody really break it down and let you know all of the timing, because this is a chart that needs to know when to execute things this year. That's the one thing that I'll tell you. So leave me a comment. Let me know. Thank you for watching all the way in the UK. I appreciate it. All right, cool. So let's get into the next person. All right, so that was, so I've got Jamie and then Wise Oak. Please send me an email. I want to know what happens in your life and we'll compare stories, because I look at your chart and I'm like, oh my God. It's like looking at my chart, you know, it's literally the same placements. It's kind of spooky. It's even the same rising sign, the exact same degree. 2/13/91. And this is at 4:28 a.m. Okay, so let's look at this. All right, February 13th, 91, 4:28 a.m. I just ended my Saturn return. Please insight on anything would be amazing. I feel like I'm about done treading water, but sheesh. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but your Saturn return ain't over. So it's over, but it's not over, you know? I think there's going to be lots of different currencies coming. I think that they're going to have to sort and sift and obviously regulate and do a lot of things. But guys, North Node in Taurus, right? Uranus is going to conjunct the North Node. Taurus is about money. There is a huge financial revolution coming. Huge. It's been brewing, but we're going to really see it take off summer. It's going to be like May through August, right? The conjunction is the end of July, beginning of August, and we're going to see that we're all going to a complete digital future. And people who get on board with that, just knowing that within 18 months, Jupiter will conjunct Uranus and Taurus, which is financial freedom, financial abundance, wealth of knowledge and information. See, where we're going in the future is not even just so much a cashless society, but it's going to be about what we find valuable and ways that we're learning and educating one another about resources. So it's not just food, it's going to be, it's not just money, it's going to be food, how we grow food. Transactions are going to be different. I think we're going to start to kind of see where people are branching out and going to other forms of money, right? And I think that's where digital currency is going to come in. But also I could see people being like, well, I know a lot about cryptocurrency and you know a lot about astrology. So what if I were to teach you in this so you can become more self-sufficient? And then, you know, that's what's going to start happening. People are going to start coming together on groups in person, but also globally, and teaching each other. Knowledge is what will be valuable. So if you know something really well, that's what's going to be super valuable, right? There's a reason why you're seeing a lot of astrologers get involved in crypto right now too, because they know that you can use transits if you know how to read them, and you can work with lunar cycles. You know when to buy and sell and invest. But I have to tell you, like, I'm not a financial advisor. I have to give you guys that comment. But I believe in it enough to know that that's where things are going, just with the astrology, that it's made me totally rework a lot of my financial stuff and started, you know, moving my credit card to a Blockify card where, you know, I make all my purchases on a credit card and now I get paid back in Bitcoin, where I'm moving, instead of money into a 401k or money into a savings every month, it's going more so into cryptocurrency and investing in cryptocurrency, knowing that these transits are coming. That's just my 2 cents. A lot of other people feel this way as well. Okay, so back to your question about your Saturn return being done. I mean, okay, you kind of been getting your ass kicked by Saturn since, like, I don't know, 2017. All right, here's the good news, is that when you have a stellium like this, you got Uranus, Neptune, North Node all in Capricorn, and then you've got Saturn, Moon, Mercury, and Aquarius all in a Saturn sign. It's like a fucking 7-year Saturn return. Like, literally, that's what this is. People who have stelliums in Capricorn, how many people in here have stelliums in Capricorn? Anybody? Or do you have like conjunctions from the late 80s where it started in Sag and then it went into Capricorn and then you have aqua placements? When is it over? Listen, here's the deal. It gets easier, okay, when Saturn leaves Aquarius. So you have been prepped really since Saturn crossed your ascendant, which I believe was in 2018. Wow. And then you had it conjunct Uranus and then Neptune. So there was, okay, so you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You guys all, like, a lot of what I'm saying to her should resonate with you as well. You guys were born when you were born because guess what? You came in to help fucking rebuild society. That's why you're here. Capricorn is about working. It's about overcoming guilt. It's about radically changing the government, radically changing the way that we do business, right? So we're all here to do that. I have 4 planets in Capricorn also, okay? And a North Node in Aquarius. So I have been asking myself, when is it going to be over? But the truth is that the beauty of astrology is there's always something else coming. So I don't really want to encourage clients or students to be in this frame of mind that's like, oh, when is it done? Yeah, Saturn energy is like, you know, it's depressing in nature. That's the way that Saturn works. But this is a power up, okay? Conjunctions are powerful. It says, nope, this is what we're doing. So Saturn actually is your best friend. You wouldn't know it, but he is. Yeah, thank you, Starseed Stellium. Any really Aquarian or Uranian signature is. I think that actually what the Aquarius stellium people have that the Capricorn don't is the guilt, okay? And that's the bigger issue with like the 1988, 89, 90, is the guilt. You're clearing all the guilt, the responsibility, the heaviness, the heavy lifting that Capricorn initiates. So actually, I want you to look at the last 2 or 3 years and go, wow, look at what I accomplished, right? And it put your body through a lot. It's still going through a lot. The last 2 or 3 weeks have been particularly difficult because you've had Mars and Pluto sitting on your North Node. So I'm wondering, you know, what has come up for you recently? What happened? What did you realize? Where did you go? I've had enough. I'm done. I'm not doing anymore, right? Something like this has happened. You're feeling your old age. Your bones are cracking. Even though you're young, you're feeling older. You're starting to feel Saturn now, right? It's been in your first house. Then you had Saturn cross your natal Saturn and your moon. And that is definitely difficult. It might be hard because you have all of these transits sandwiched in 2 signs where many people will have those conjunctions intermittently at different parts of their life, right? So to me, I kind of look at this and go, it's about boundaries. It's about what you need. And yes, you know, when you get Saturn within about 10 degrees away from your natal Saturn, things lighten up. The problem is, and I shouldn't even say that. The benefit is now Saturn's going to conjunct your sun. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get more serious about the food you're putting in your body, detoxing, having better spending habits, and not avoiding anything in regards to money and resources? How are you going to start making other people's money work for you? Because it's the 8th house ruler, the sun. Are you going to really tap into your gifts and everything that you've got going on because you're very gifted, right? I'm not just saying that. Because you have a stellium of planets in your second house, you're like a Taurus. So you know how to get the job done. Keep working, keep working, keep working, keep working. The problem is that it's also being squared by the nodes. And there's going to be this feeling of like, okay, well, what do I do? What do I know how to do? I don't want to work a normal job, or I'm working something, but it's draining. And then you've also got all of the things going on with the squares to Taurus in your fourth house. Right now, once again, this is another situation. I'm going to make a video for these people. Like I'm working on it, I promise. But I'm going to put a video out because you guys really need some help. There's a lot of people that, obviously astrology is super complex, but it's not just a Saturn return, especially for a chart like this. It's a Saturn return with Uranus squares, the Pluto and Scorpio generation, you know, like we've been fucked for some time, since the beginning, when you think about it, right? We come in with Pluto, it's a not natural bullshit detector when it's in Scorpio, but we have seen so many economic crisis happen. We've seen, I mean, it's just like crazy. When you think about how much trauma the Pluto and Scorpio generation has been raised with. So I'll put a video out. But when is it over? You know, in a way, now the juice really is going to happen because it's going to conjunct your sun. So second house ruler is in the, oh, sorry, I was reading what somebody else was saying. So you have the eighth house ruler in the second. So I would say this is about other people's money, other people's resources, dealing with asking for more, expecting more, leveling up, handling resources, handling finances, and developing your own unique talents. That's just a few things that kind of come to mind for me. Let me know if any of this relates. Now I'm kind of going through and reading these. Yeah. But also it's like, are you really done having kids? Because Saturn could hit your sun, and now you're having eclipses that are going to actually be on the cusp of your fifth house. And it could be like, oh my God, I don't feel like my body can handle it. I feel like it's gonna take more resource wise. We can't afford it. We're paying more insurance. It's gonna be things like that. So I would say, feels like a turning point, and all makes so much sense, resonates. Yeah, awesome. You also are somebody who would benefit from getting a reading, okay? So one thing that I would say down the road for you is, yeah, probably you also would benefit from getting a reading because it's extremely complex. But you have a lot to look forward to. When Saturn leaves Aquarius next spring, I have a feeling that things are going to be a lot easier. And then Saturn is going to hit your Venus. Technically, that's going to be in your whole sign third house. Maybe you're writing a book. Maybe you're doing something different professionally. Maybe you're working remotely. I mean, you got Venus in Pisces in your whole sign third. Like, why are you not reading tarot cards? You know, why? Saturn conjunct the moon. You went through all the lessons that you went through specifically so you can come to this point and create change and feel like you can be much more self-sustainable. So hopefully that's helpful. Thank you guys for your patience. I know it's taking a little bit longer tonight, but there's a lot of shit going on in the world, so people need help. All right, so let's get to next person on my list. Wise Oak. So this is Saffron Sage. December 17th, 85. $11:54 p.m. And that was Port Angeles, Washington. Okay, cool. So, I plan on launching a course this spring, but it's not coming together. However, I'm getting lots of one-on-one clients. Based on my chart, should I focus on client work for now and do a course or book some other time next year? Okay, good question. So, You are in your 12th house year right now, I believe. Yeah, right? Because you're 35. Courses and stuff, I feel like it's a better time to regroup in regards to coming back and being able to, you know, restructuring a course. Timing wise, it's not great right now because you do have all these planets that are setting up in Aquarius, and I'm more concerned about you overworking yourself and biting off more than you can chew, honestly. I would say you want to use the transits, especially when they start getting, okay, let me start from the beginning. Focus this month and next month more so on, okay, first house. Focus more so this month and next month on timing and structure, okay, like your schedule. Because if you're going to do something like this, I feel like it would probably do better somewhere after the eclipses in Taurus that are going to be coming in the spring. But I could see where you want to teach. North Node is in your 9th house. I think you can hit some roadblocks, quite honestly, when it comes to scheduling or other obligations and responsibilities. Because for a whole sign Virgo chart, it's happening in your 6th, which is like, do you have the time? You know, are you overbooking yourself? Have you taken on too many clients and then you don't have time to promote the course or like actually, you know, finish everything? I would say put a pin in it. Focus on the one-on-one clients right now. And when you start getting planets going into Pisces, like Mars and Venus and stuff, from mid-April on, it's a better time. I would use the Mercury retrograde because it's going to be your time lord for this year. When it conjuncts the North Node at the end of April and then it retrogrades, to go back and actually finish it, rework it, depending on how your schedule looks now. And I would say a launch you want to do when something is in harmonious aspect to your Venus. So you could do something like when Mars comes into a trine with your Venus, which is going to be right around the second half of June. So I would say that's better timing. You've got Venus and Mercury in your 9th. You probably want to either do it before or after the square to Saturn. So just food for thought. And I would just plan on trying to actually launch it probably closer to the second half of June and make sure that you have moved your schedule in a way that can facilitate some of the changes that you're going to be making, right? If you're going more into like wanting to publish or making courses or whatever. You want to also pick a really good day for your chart election wise. So you can get super specific with this if you need to. Like you could literally sit down and really look at the transits and work that out. If that's something that you want in the future, let me know. I can definitely do that for you. Just like I can be like, here is the time and here is the day that you launch it, just to get the most traction and most visibility. People don't realize that that's what astrology is used for. It's for planning. So I personally think that you're going to reorganize things. You're needing to also make time to feel inspired. That's part of what's going on with these squares. So even though you're not a Libra rising, you're a late Virgo, you're going through some of the same stuff. How do I make time for stuff that I'm passionate about? Well, if you're passionate enough about it, you're going to make the time. So there's nothing wrong with you taking the one-on-one clients. If you feel like a course is going to do better down the road, I personally think it's going to do much better in June. And I would say, even though it's not anywhere close to June, you still want to go through your schedule and block time out to make sure you have that time to focus on this stuff, you know? But yeah, Mercury transits are going to be important. I would wait probably until after that Mercury retrograde in May. And I would say when Mercury then comes into like a trine with Pluto, hey, I'm not mad at it. I mean, I'm really liking like mid to late June. I think it'll be a lot more successful, you know, because it's also going to trine Saturn. And I think that's when something's really going to stick. Hopefully that gives you some insight. I'm really excited. What kind of a course are you going to be teaching? I'd love to know. Calling last call for everybody. So I've got Miranda, Swats, and Malaya. Let me see what else I've got in the queue. Yeah, it's just timing. You know, it's literally just timing. I guess another option could also be that, you know, you make the decision to do something shorter, and then you could do something longer, but like I think it's better to wait. Yeah, definitely last call, because we got a whole list of people here. So Swats, Malaya, let's see, who else do I have here? Yuzavi, Mary, Brandon, Annabelle, Ellie. And yeah, okay, so if anybody else pops in, sorry guys, I'm not going to be able to go any longer, so we can take care of these people. All right, so let's look at Miranda, 10/30/75. Olympia, what did you send your information to me? If you guys can send me the info, thank you. Awesome. Send me the info in the memo. Otherwise, when I call your name, just have that info ready, please. Okay, so let's put that in 10/30/75. And 6:30 a.m. All right. Question is, Demetrius meant to be in my life. Are you here right now, Miranda? Let me know. That's more like a tarot question, because you're asking me, I mean, I can talk to you about your love life in general, but I got to tell you, it's pretty evident to me just with your astrology that's going on right now. Like, if you want me to look at that person's birthday, we can do Synastry, but without having like a reference for the astrology of like somebody else's birthday, that's more like a horary question or a tarot question. So let me know. I can either refund you, or if you want to hear what I have to say. Okay. So here's what I'll tell you. You're a Libra rising. You've got Pluto right now that is squaring your ascendant. So Pluto's in Capricorn in your third house. So there's a lot of mental challenges with communication and like breakdown happening in how you communicate and relate to other people, because Pluto's at 28, it's squaring your ascendant, it's squaring your descendant. So that's going to bring up lots of toxicity in regards to relationships with other people. On top of that, you are also going through your reverse nodal return. So you natally have the south node in your 7th, the north node's in your 1st. So this is a lifetime of learning to be more independent, focusing on channeling your energies. If relationships come in, great. You do have karmic relationships in this lifetime with the south node in your 7th. But your reverse nodal return is like you're doing things backwards. So believe it or not, this is a very important time for relationships. The next 2 years is huge, because you're having Uranus meet with the north node. So it's radically changing and transforming relationships. It may project you very quickly into a new relationship where you end up living with somebody, getting married, and it's just very, very different. It can bring lots of erraticness with relationships. I would say probably when Uranus comes out of the conjunction with your south node, there's definitely going to be more that's going to kind of calm down. So yeah, let me know if that resonates. And I really genuinely feel like there's going to still be a lot of erraticness going on in relationships until you're over with the eclipses in your 7th house. So like April, May, October, November is going to be incredibly active. Like, just be mindful. It'll be very active for bringing people in and sending people on their merry way. But next year, when Jupiter goes into your 7th house, I'm looking at like next spring, where it's like You may get engaged, you may get married next spring, next summer, because you're going to have Jupiter and Juno and Uranus and the North Node all in your 7th. So when you're having eclipses in your 1st and your 7th house, there's clearings that happen. You have to release old ways of being, or feeling the need to kind of control things or be on your own, or dealing with abandonment, especially if it's Scorpio. But what you have to gain with the eclipses in your 7th house is it's bringing new people in. Now, I have to tell you, looking at your astrology for really the better part of like, you know, the last several months has been quite tough, I would imagine, having Venus and Mars and Pluto all conjunct each other, and it's squaring your ascendant and your descendant, and it can feel like a turning point where you have to finally cut somebody, or you have to finally take the jump. It's like, it's very black and white. And I feel inclined to tell you that depending on what has happened, if somebody left your life, then it's because somebody else is coming in, right? Although it's going to probably feel a little, I think it's going to feel a little lonely with Mars and Venus and Saturn in your 4th house. I think what's beautiful about that is it is trining your ascendant. So it's making you realize you have to heal family issues, you have to heal ancestral issues, you have to be okay taking care of yourself, loving yourself, not settling for relationships, not focusing on the past too much. And there's lots of karmic things that are going to start happening either within your home or your family zone, which is going to propel you into future relationships. Now, this may resonate a lot for late degree Libra risings, early degree Scorpio risings, because you're kind of on the cusp, you're almost a Scorpio rising. So you can listen to Libra, but I would say you may want to listen to Scorpio rising, but you are Scorpio, so listen to both. And you're going to find that the timing of these are very accurate. And I look at this and I go, personally, with Venus and Mars going into your 5th house, if somebody is in love with you, if somebody's meant to be in your life, they will show up big time. April, May, June. Okay? Like, really hear me on this. If that is the person, because then you'll start seeing all these true love activations happening in your 5th house. It's going to be sextiling your 7th, right? So I kind of feel inclined to tell you, I'm a Libra rising too, girl. When I went through this, it was fucking horrible. It was really bad, okay? It was like really bad, having to like end an off and on relationship for like 4 years and not being happy with the living situation and just, but I finally was like, no, I have to follow the astrology advice. That's literally what I went off of. Ended it, decided to move, was super done, was like, I'm moving on with my life. I'm making all these changes. It was the best 2 or 3 months of my life ever. It was amazing. And then my husband showed up. So it was totally worth it, because I realized I had to go through all of that to really learn that I deserved better, and that I needed to be better with boundaries, and I needed to really prioritize my future, not just with where I was living, but my future, you know, plans in my life, my personal life plans. And it ended up being really difficult while I was in it. But when I got the other side of it, I moved, my work has done nothing but gotten better. I have like a super awesome, you know, partner now who's really involved in my life and like a lot of things. And like, it gets better. So yes, there's a lot of crying, and you're going to be totally in your feelings, and it's going to feel pretty rough, and you're going to really need like your family and other people that you can lean on. When I say family, Aquarius in the 4th can also be your friends that feel like your family, or roommates, or talking to your mom. I mean, I remember when I went through the Saturn transit in my 4th house, it was like I was on the phone with my dad every day. Right? So you might actually get closer to one of your parents, or older relatives might give you lots of good advice. And I would say lean into that, because you're clearing some kind of family patterning in relationships. I noticed you've got Sun conjunct Uranus. So personally, that tells me that you have some abandonment issues with men. And it might relate to what happened with your parents' dynamic, or growing up, maybe dad wasn't always around, or he was kind of in and out. And so when men do that, you kind of freak out, and it brings up that trauma. So when you deal with the issue at the source, right, and you pull all of the shit from the foundation that threatens your ability to have peaceful relationships, something better arrives. I promise you that. I really encourage you to do this work, because it's going to bring you something next year that's going to be really, really, really great. And I don't even think you need to wait that long. It's probably going to show up sometime between I would say April and June. The only question is where does he live? or where do they live, or are you going back and forth, or are they culturally different because there's something unusual because Uranus is in your 7th, or they live in a different place, or maybe somebody from the past comes back. So that's another way that I can interpret that. But see how it goes. Give it until like that April, May time, and then follow back up because I want to hear what happens, because you're going to be really glad that you made the cut. All right, so we've got Swats. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. I can't always keep up, but we've got somebody moderating the chat. February 10th, 1986. (3 a.m.) 3:10 a.m. Nice to see you back, Swats. You have a lot of Aquarius in your chart. How's your life going right now? How is it going? You're very welcome. How's it going? I'm living in New Zealand. Career is great. I feel more confident in making my own resources. What should I look forward to this year? As always, I want children in the future. Very similar to that other person's chart, who we were just talking to, who had the Cap rising. You know, the kid thing is a big thing right now because you are having the eclipses that are setting up in your 5th house. 2nd house is like money that we make, resources or talents. And then the 5th house is then what we give birth to. So it's like I develop the talents, I put money into the business, or I'm saving business, or I'm charging more, whatever. The 5th house is like here's what I have. You know, you're showing it to the world, right? The 8th house is more the money that you receive, and it can also be about pregnancy. So actually a lot of the plans that you're making right now with Saturn sitting on your Sun and your Venus and your Mercury is in your mind, I got to make this, I'm making money, things are going great. How do I make more of them, blah, blah, blah. You're feeling the time crunch with children primarily because you have the North Node and eclipses in your 5th house. I mean, part of me feels inclined to tell you that whenever you're dealing with Uranus in the 5th, things come very quickly, very unexpectedly, okay? So whether that's an unexpected pregnancy or that ends up being somebody you meet and you meet somebody who's equally like, yeah, I'm also trying to get pregnant, like, you're good. Don't worry about that. If anything, I would say worry more about getting pregnant and not being prepared, because eclipses in your 5th house can definitely bring that. It's also going to influence dating. So I'm hearing you're saying I'm worried about children. I think it's a combination of both Saturn being, you know, or coming for your moon and also coming for your Venus, where you're like, yeah, I feel like I need to actually really show up and have one. The time is coming. I feel like when Saturn hits Venus, that's going to be interesting because it means that when it comes to dating, you realize that until you have certain resources together, or unless you're being really clear with dating and communicating, hey, I'm trying to have a kid, you know, I have a timeline. These are conversations that are going to work their way into dating, essentially, right? And the fear of not being able to have children, or the fear of worry about children, this is because you had an eclipse on Lilith in the 5th house, so you're worried about money and resources and kids. You also have Uranus that's coming into conjunction. I would say like pregnancy could happen with the eclipses, but so could meeting the love of your life, right? And I would say really the eclipses are going to be the turning points. For pregnancy, we would have to look more at like possibly being in a situation where we look at your progress chart, or like a lunar return, right? Those would be things that would give us more of an indication. But I feel like, you know, actually the next 2 years is great. Like I feel like a much more harmonious pregnancy is going to be when Jupiter goes into your 5th house, right? Because you're going to enjoy it more. It's going to be something worth being excited about. This year with Saturn on your Venus, it's like you're making money for future children. That's what you're doing. That's the whole focus. And you're really serious about not screwing around with dating, or like, you know, giving your heart away to just anybody. You need somebody who's on the same page with what you want to create. So I would say Focus on that first. I'm noticing a trend here. There's a lot of people who have the Aquarius stelliums, or they have Leo, or they have Scorpio, or they have Taurus in their chart, and they're all bugging out because they're like, what the fuck? Like, things are changing. What do I do? Because we only know how to do something a certain way, right? I have a stellium in my second house too. Same way. So you're kind of in uncharted territory. It means that when it comes to children or your fifth house, with all these transits in your fifth house, the eclipses, Uranus, what have you, you're going to do the idea of kids differently. Does that mean that you invest money? Because Uranus rules your second house. Do you invest in having children in the future, Uranus? Do you smooth some of those fears by considering, possibly freezing your eggs so you feel like there's less pressure, so you're focusing on finding a really good partner, and somebody who is a great match in the off chance that you need to delay a pregnancy? I would say this actually to anybody who's got Uranus going through their fifth house right now. I would say this to anybody who's got Aquarius on the fifth house right now also. So you could be a Libra rising or a Virgo rising. You guys are kind of like, okay, I'm feeling the age thing because Saturn's squaring or Saturn's making conjunctions. Do I do it? Do I not do it? It's kind of a scary thing for the Pluto and Scorpio generation as well, because I think it's about like looking at debt and whether or not financially you feel comfortable or that you can actually take care of a kid and give them everything that they need. So I've seen a lot of people with the Pluto and Scorpio generation with these squares that are like terrified of it, but that's also because of trauma, right? Working hard, charging more, thinking about career. Yeah, I would say, this is just me personally, focus more on love first. And within the back of your mind, Saturn on your Venus is like, hi, I'm looking for, a long-term partner, or hi, I'm looking to, have a kid. You don't have to be married to have a kid. In fact, usually Uranus transits in the fifth house is like, you fall in love, a baby happens, and then you're like, we're together. Who cares? Like, we don't need to worry about that. Actually, your horoscope for future relationships is wonderful. I know I've told you this before, but I'm going to tell you this again. You've got Jupiter conjunct the moon, right? So that ties in both your 12th house and also your 7th house. And it's technically in your second. So it's going to be somebody who has land. They also want to buy property with you, or develop land or garden, or they're really good at money and resources. Like, you're fine. I don't think it gets much better than Moon Jupiter. Especially Mercury. You're going to end up being with somebody who knows a lot. They know a lot about money and resources, or they know a lot about growing food or communal living, and that will be super valuable. So I actually feel like Saturn coming into conjunction with not just your Venus, your Mercury, your Moon. I mean, oh my gosh, this is, to some people, they look at this and they're like, oh, that's really scary. I look at this and I go, no, this is really exciting, because you're going to realize that you're looking for a partner that's more going to give you what you need, but they may be very different or unconventional, and it's not what you expected. For a woman's chart, we always look at Jupiter, right? We look at the house placement, the degree, the sign. We can also look at the degree that you have on the 7th house. It's very clear it's going to be somebody who's going to be a friend, right? You have 11 Cancer degrees on your descendant. That's a friend. It's connected to the moon. So you've got Moon Jupiter. Once you've moved to a foreign place, you're going to meet somebody. It sounds like you've already done that if you left Fiji. And also, it might be they meet you while they're traveling, or vice versa. And you guys might start, like a friendship, or maybe you meet on the internet. Who knows? Because it's Aquarius. But I think Saturn, when Saturn shows up and it conjuncts stuff, especially in a Saturn-based sign, it's like, now is the time. So anybody who's listening to this, if you guys have a lot of Aquarius in your chart, if you have a North Node in Aquarius, if you have Aquarius rising, Saturn showing up literally the next, 4 to 8 weeks is like, time, it's go time. We have to do this. We have to do this now. Why? Because astrology is not just purely about us, me, my natal chart. What about this? What about that? No, astrology represents groups of people who become awakened or go through experiences at the same time to help project things forward. So y'all wouldn't have been born with this much Aquarius unless you signed up to be here right now, because the world is about to dramatically change. And if you have stelliums in Aquarius, it means that, guess what? You're on the right side of history, because you are going to be more tuned into this energy, and you're going to play a role in helping the world change. So I look at your chart and go, don't worry so much about the kid. Okay, because you will have children. You have, Jupiter conjunct the moon. You've got Venus conjunct the sun. Clearly, that's a goal of yours. So you're focusing a lot on working, so that way you can do your 5th house stuff. Personally, I would say watch out for getting pregnant. When Venus or Mars go through your 5th house, that could happen, but you could also fall in love. And me personally, I would say I would rather get pregnant when Jupiter is in a fertile sign. And that's looking like next summer. You know, you got Jupiter and the North Node that's still in your whole sign 5th. Uranus is there with Mercury. I mean, something's going to happen there and you're going to be like, this is great. And you will be prepared, and you will also feel like you have support. There's also going to be a Venus retrograde in your 8th next year as well. So that could also just bring in a lot more coming in, charging more, bringing more, a partner somehow makes more. There's something like that that's going to happen. But obviously, you know, the next couple years are going to be a lot, man. You're going to have Saturn go through all this year. The nodes are also squaring it this year. 2023, Jupiter and Uranus are going to square that. I mean, don't worry about having a kid. You will be fine. But I'm more concerned about you not really staying focused right now and developing certain skills that you need for the future. And all that Aquarius in the 2nd house means you need to be knowing everything about your resources, your money. Where are you putting it? Go and listen to financial podcasts, networks, people. Go and educate yourself. Get a variation of more information when it comes to freedom with your resources and where you should be putting your money. Because the 2nd house stellium says, I want land, right? I want to own land. It might be communal land, communal like grow operations for things. Like I know somebody who's got a stellium like this here, and they're very heavily involved in like building communal kitchens. I know somebody else who is really heavily invested in like cannabis, and they grow and they teach and they work with cannabis. Like you're one of the people who's going to play a role in where we're going for the future. So I want you to really fine tune some of your talents. I don't know what it is that you do for a living, but something you're fine tuning this year is gonna take off. I think I've said this to you before. When I had Saturn go through Scorpio and it went through my 2nd house stellium, where I also have Sun and Mercury and Mars and Pluto, that's when I started my astrology business, because I was like, this is what I really love to do. This is what I'm really passionate about, and I'm going to do this. And it wasn't even really so much about being like, I'm going to turn it into a business. It just kind of happened because I kept really honing in on my craft, right? So I promise you that you'll look back in 3.5 and then 7 years from this year, and you'll go, thank God I did this. Thank God I bought Bitcoin. Thank God I, invested in that stock. Thank God I took that course and learned how to trade or whatever, or I bought that land, because it'll pay off. So really focus on doing that. Don't worry about kids. Kids will be fine. Next year, Jupiter, Uranus. If anything, I would say to you, I've seen this more in Taurus than I have in Gemini. Do twins run in your family? Because Jupiter, Uranus coming together in your 5th can be doubles, especially the first couple degrees of Taurus is usually where I see twins. So if you've got anything like, I would say 3 to maybe 8 degrees, I've seen a lot of clients have twins. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know. Keep us updated. Malaya, 5/2/2001. And that was at 6:56 p.m. You're born in 2001. You got a lot of that Aquarius stuff in your chart. General reading about personal growth, relationships. I've been learning so much at a rapid speed about natal charts. What are your thoughts on having 9-12 of the same house rulers as somebody else? Sorry if that's confusing. I mean, but also, like, twins could be because you do something, like, in vitro. Just food for thought. I mean, that could happen. So it would not surprise me. Watch out for that. Okay, so general reading. Wow, a lot of Libra risings here. How are you doing with the conjunctions that have been happening also on your IC? So a lot of what I said to, was it Scorpion Goddess? I think that was her name. Similar transits as you, with that Pluto on the most southern part of the chart. Wow, you have Mars and Venus coming into conjunction with Neptune. Watch out for like romantic partners from the past coming back around. That can be happening, or a dream about somebody from the past. That could be happening the 14th through the 18th. Also be careful because there can be accidents in the home that involve water, just a heads up. You can be feeling a little psychically or energetically under the weather. Or you can have, do you have like a spill in the house? Was there like a pipe that burst? Was there some incident involving water? Because it's hanging around until the 18th. When I have Neptune in the 4th, and when I've had Neptune transits, especially if I'm not dealing with emotions, like there was a whole period of time in my house in LA where like I just had so many issues with plumbing, and I knew it was like just me not dealing with things emotionally. So like things would burst or break or flood, and I'd be like, oh my God. And I knew that it was the emotional stuff. For a Libra rising chart, Neptune rules your 5th house in this chart, Placidus, and whole sign your 6th. So where you're not letting go of old heartbreak or emotional disharmony, but it's a really interesting time with Mars and Venus on your Neptune. I'd be a little skeptic of anybody who comes in. I'd also be a little skeptic if a family member's under the weather. I'd keep an eye on them. Or you can just be feeling a little bit more blue. Venus Neptune's great. And with Mars being there, I would say keep the house high vibe. Like take baths and showers if you can pretty regularly the next couple of days. Salt baths, pedicures or foot reflexology. Have music going in the house. Like you need more zen because Mars and Venus can be a little disruptive when it's on your Neptune. When you get out of this period, they all start trining your ascendant. So while it will square the nodes, it's not going to be as difficult for you. I think it's just more about transactional stuff. Like if you live with family, what things cost and people saying, hey, we need you to chip in more. If you live with roommates, it can be like, oh, rent's going up, like cost of utilities are going up. And there can definitely be some squabbles when Mars and Venus are in your 4th house, coming into conjunction with Uranus. Personally, your chart ruler being conjunct Venus in the 4th is going to be the karma of the family. So you may feel like the second half of March going into April is like that your family is going kind of haywire, and emotionally you're like, oh my God, this is insane. Definitely it's very important because it's going to involve your chart ruler. So, and I talked about this on my channel. I'm going to talk about it this week a lot more, but Venus is getting sandwiched in between Mars and Saturn. We call this an enclosure, okay? So it's like she's between a rock and a hard place, and she really wants peace and equality and freedom in Aquarius. She wants harmony, but Saturn is trying to lock her down, and Mars is also kind of trying to get her to fight. My cat's been throwing up a lot in the home. No water accidents, but close. I need to make a vet appointment. Yes, you do. Because Mars coming into conjunction with Neptune at an 8 can be an infection of the stomach. I'm not a vet, but it literally can be a stomach infection, okay? Or something that the cat has eaten that was perhaps toxic. I would just advise you to do this sooner rather than later. Because when Mars and Venus conjunct Neptune, Venus can be health, right? So I know that you're hearing about this on the 12th, but I would be like, looking at your transits, the cat really should go in and see a vet before Venus squares Uranus or Mars squares Uranus, because it could be a much more serious situation. But still, water in the home, emotions in the home, crying, family, things like that. So pets traditionally rule 6th house Pisces for Libra rising. So I think that I would definitely looking at these transits, take whatever is going on with the pet seriously. Know that the 4th house can be about endings, so emotionally wrapping things up, letting things go, feeling like we need to bury things, put things away, or say goodbye to people. So some real heavy energy going on in the 4th house of dealing with home and family, and possibly just feeling a little bit of grief. Just would rather be honest with you so you know. It's also going to be squaring your Mercury, so it can bring up some anxiety. And yeah, it's really reinforcing all that 4th house stuff. So it's kind of saying really time to kind of deal with stuff within the home, the family, the resources, things like that. It's all trining your ascendant. So you communicating and talking to people about how you're feeling, talking it out, all of that stuff is important. And Saturn's coming up on your natal Uranus. So it looks to me like it's just about totally moving things around in the house and clearing things out and feeling lighter or more capable of being able to move if it needs to. Oh, decluttering your apartment. There you go. Yeah. Great time to do it. Great time to tackle it. I feel like if you get this done within the time period of these conjunctions, give yourself until mid-April, it's going to feel very different. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay. Miss Thompson, are you here? Let me know. I don't have your info, so I need to put that in. And then I have Mary, Brandon, Annabelle. We did call final call for the readings because we still have a couple more people, guys. So we're not going to be taking any more. I will send them back. Looks like we had somebody. Yeah, anything after like around 8, we're going to close it off. So we still have actually quite a few people. So if you guys want to keep listening, keep listening. I appreciate it. Thanks, Maria. You want to send me your info? And I'll plug that in. $12, $12, $87, $12, $12. That's right, all those 12s. What city was it? Thank you. Was it 12:12 a.m. or p.m.? Let me know if it was a.m. or p.m. Let me make sure everybody's got this info. Mary's got the info. Brandon. Annabelle. Thank you. Okay, so we've got you here, Virgo rising. What do you know for the rest of March? Going to work on a trip the next few weeks. Are really hopeful for new opportunities in love and career. The month of March, a lot of it's scheduling. And one thing I would say to you is I'm a little, dare I say, concerned about traveling going according to plan. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but I would just say expect the unexpected, because you have Mars and Venus and Saturn coming into a conjunction, and it's going to square Uranus first. So it's going to be about scheduling and travel. So it does look like there's going to be some conflicts, unfortunately, or maybe having to change some things around or reschedule some stuff. Just be ready for it, especially because, you know, Venus rules your money, Mars rules other people's. I look at this and go, well, if you bought tickets to go somewhere, there could be a situation where there's delays, or then they refund you and they say, hey, your flight got canceled. You need to get a new flight. And you're like, okay, well, now I have to pay more because I'm booking closer to the date. Does that make sense? Something like that can come up. I think it would probably be the most disruptive when probably Venus or Mars square Uranus. So that's going to be when they're like around 12 degrees, the 18th, give or take a day. And the 22nd, give or take a day. On the flip side, it can also be like, oh, I'm breaking out of routine. I'm doing something different. So it could be that, but I kind of feel like there's some challenges. Just the fact that your travel house, Mars and Venus is being conflicted. And it's also squaring your natal Mars and Pluto. So something is going, I think, a little out of whack when it comes to scheduling and timing. I'm not saying traveling in general is bad, but like, timing wise, it would have probably been better if you were doing it when all the planets were either in Pisces or like closer to like April going into May. Okay, so you're not worried about it. Okay, well then it might be that they kind of, you know, they have to delay it for whatever reason. So I just say expect the unexpected, because it can end up being something that changes. For the most part though, to be honest with you, there are some really great transits that are setting up in the Aquarius arena, where you're going to start seeing Mars and Venus actually sextiling your Jupiter. So that's lovely. That's going to make it more possible for you to meet people. The horoscope for A Virgo rising this year is great. There's a lot of relationship-y energy just with other people in general happening in your 7th house. So I'm just most curious for like when the sun touches on the North Node on the 18th, when Mercury, Neptune, and Jupiter all come together around the 24th. And this is going into April, but you know, Jupiter and Neptune are also going to conjunct. That can be finding somebody that you just fall head over heels with and you're really infatuated with them. It could also be a situation where you're meeting somebody right after they've moved, or like when they're going through some home or family changes in general. Yeah, it's a relief to break up your routine. Yeah, so it's like if you're somebody who's like, I just want to break, if you know if they get stuck with having to pay for more stuff or whatever, so be it. Make sure that they're actually paying for everything, because if you're having to do other things, because I could think of like them reimbursing you, make sure you understand. If they're like, we're going to pay for your meals and we're going to pay for this or that, like keep all the receipts, make sure that you read the fine print, make sure that they're going to actually take care of everything, because it's a lot of what other people are supposed to give you this month. And I would say it's funny that you're traveling, because you are supposed to meet somebody who lives in a different place, you know, your 4th house lord going into your 7th. Are you going to be somewhere that's going to be by water, a beach, a coastal city? Where are you going? I mean, I know you live in Florida, but are you going somewhere else similar to this? Or maybe you'll go and you'll meet somebody who goes, oh, you live in Florida. I've always wanted to, you know, I've always wanted to visit there. And then you start going back and forth with somebody who really enjoys, they're like, oh, I love fishing. I love this. I love that. It's the Neptune energy, right? But besides that, I mean, I guess things are getting a little bit better. You're just going to kind of get a little frustrated with your routine. That's the feeling that I'm getting. Saturn and Mars all coming into a square. It's like, can be squabbles with like coworkers or anything like that going on. So just be mindful that people are going to be a little bit more confrontational than usual. Really focus on healthy habits, I would say, especially how you're thinking and how you're kind of moving throughout your day. Just awareness of how you're communicating in general with people. Oh, interesting. It's on my sun line in Pittsburgh. So it's funny because your sun is a 19, your descendant is a 19. That's about a partner. So it looks like you might meet somebody in another place and like convince them to move to you or vice versa. It's kind of hard to get you to move with that Sun Saturn in your 4th house. You like to stay put, but you might meet somebody who would be willing to kind of meet you halfway or go back and forth. But yeah, this is a great time. Even if you don't meet anybody while you're gone, realize that this energy is very strong in your horoscope for meeting people, you know, clear until, man. I mean, Jupiter's going to be there all year, but it's really hot until about the end of June. So do be open to trying to meet people in other places is a recommendation that I would make. And now that Uranus is trining your Venus, I think you're definitely going to have some change-ups in the love department, and you're going to enjoy it. You have to let me know who shows up during these transits, because somebody prominent is going to appear. Jupiter's going to hit your North Node a couple times. So it'll come back and it'll actually, I think, station. Yeah, it'll station on your North Node. So you really want to give this to fully unfold probably closer to about November, but it will make sense. And if you're going to your sun line, that might be where he lives or where he's from. Just food for thought. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Mary. Obia, 4/4/1980. And that was at 7:43 p.m. Murfreesboro, Illinois. I had Jupiter transit my part of fortune or spirit, depending on the technique, 1 week ago. It's still within 3 degrees and it's moving into exact conjunction with my Mercury. Is it too late to take advantage of the transit? Does it require action, or can I just let the benefits wash over me? Let me know, Maria. I want to see who shows up. Let's read the Sabian symbol. I like this question. This is breaking up the questions a little bit. So, Olympia, let me know if you're here. She was asking questions in regards to her point of fortune. So it's at 13 degrees of Pisces. It's in her 5th house. It's that little X that's right next to her Mercury. So the point of fortune is kind of like a treasure trove. It can be like you finding something, and when it's activated by transit, it can unlock some kind of like luck, right? So Pisces is about emotional, spiritual, creative, everything coming together, stuff washing over you. It's very emotional, okay? So the fact that you have it in your 5th house tells me that it's going to be about feeling a sense of, I think maybe inspired, and it can be about love. I think it's about your own creative endeavors though, personally. Yeah, no worries, Ellie. Of course, I can do that for you. But I think that you want to look at more than just an outer transit, because Jupiter's moving pretty quickly, so it might have activated that. Now, Jupiter in your horoscope is the traditional ruler of Pisces, but it's also the 2nd house of money and resources. So let's read the Sabian symbol for the 13 degrees Pisces. And because it's 13 and 12 minutes, we'll look at 13, but we'll also look at 14 as well. So 13 degrees of Pisces, the power of precedent. The symbol speaks to the far-reaching effects of the lives and deeds of historic figures of the past. The image of a sword emphasizes courage, honor, but also laying something to rest. We just had a new moon that was conjunct this degree. Did you see my Pisces new moon video? You should go back and listen to it because I talk about this specifically. But it's basically like doing your research, learning from the past, discovering new ways to resolve solutions or situations, finding solutions. And I think that personally, being that now Jupiter has unlocked that and it will conjunct Mercury, it's going to be about your goals, right? And feeling inspired when it comes to your goals. So sometimes transits can get activated days before a conjunction, weeks after a conjunction. Just because a conjunction happens, you have to look for other points where it can actually be expressed. So I'm looking at when perhaps maybe Venus or Mars joins that particular place as well, right? Now, Mercury is about communication, information, relaying it. Let's look at also 14 degrees because this one's really going to apply. Pisces 14, so we round up if it's 13 and change. The theme is seduction, a lady in fox fur. It's about tastefulness. Speaking to the charm and charisma, an image of a young lady in fox emphasizes elegance, sophistication, desire to make an impact on others and be admired. The challenge is using this symbol to learn how to fit in and be considered part of a group without sacrificing your own personal freedom. It's on sophistication, making a good impression. So actually, I feel like Jupiter coming into conjunction with that again is going to definitely expand your own personal attraction abilities, charisma. It might have you investing a little bit more time, energy, or resources on your appearance. Specifically, like the 5th house can also deal with your hair, that you're making more of a statement with your hair because it's a Leo house. Maybe you're painting your toenails bright colors because it's Pisces. It could be your feet. Maybe you're just being a little bit more flashy and you're showing up a little bit more. You're putting more emphasis into really kind of being a little bit more dramatic and theatrical, and especially with your appearance. And so because Jupiter rules your 2nd house, it could also be just like feeling yourself, really being in your body more, maybe investing a little bit more resources or money into your beauty routine. Maybe it's something that's also like very cultural because it's activating, Jupiter, which is about where you come from. You're a Sag moon. You've also got Mercury square Neptune. So I think Neptune in the 2nd is like, well, a lot of like, what do I value? And like, what is important? And like, how can I best express myself? When Jupiter comes into a square with that, because Neptune rules the 5th house, the way that you express yourself creatively and romantically is going to change, right? literally you're going to hear a lot for like Scorpio predictions, like, oh, you're going to get pregnant. Well, yeah, if you're really feeling yourself and you're being a Jezebel all around town, I mean, if it happens, I'm going to say I told you so. But I think that Jupiter coming into conjunction with your point of fortune and Mercury is more about just expressing more of your seductive side, and also thinking a lot about give and exchange that happens with sex energetically, and what you're really looking for, and that you really want to be romanced and all that fun stuff. I think the sweetness is actually more going to come when Mercury or Mars or Venus cross over those degrees, right? It can also just be really working through psychological triggers revolving around security and whether or not you feel safe or secure in relationships, whether or not you're really in love with someone, whether or not you are interested in thinking about children. This is a theme a lot for Libra risings and Scorpio risings in general because of Jupiter's ingress. But I think Jupiter coming into conjunction with your Mercury can be like, you know, do I want to have kids? How do I feel about that? Do I want it? Do I not? Am I dating people who do or they don't? I think Jupiter conjunct your Mercury is like, you know, make music, write poetry, you know, feel inspired, really speak your mind. It's going to be very creative, and you're going to just see like a new tone emerge. I think the juice is going to arrive when Venus or Mars sit on this degree, and like many Scorpio risings are going to just feel super in love and very creative and inspired with these transits, to the point where they might say, I love you, or somebody says it back to you, or you realize that you fell in love with writing music, or you fell in love with a hobby and then you want to do more of it. But it can also be about you doing hobbies that lead to relationships. So like you decide you want to get into pottery, so you go and take a pottery class, and then you end up meeting somebody and you're like, whoa, we hit it off. Or if you are partnered, it's going to be doing more hobbies, having more fun, relaxation, traveling, having a good time with a partner. So it could go either way. But the sweetness, I think, starts to be unveiled more so around like the 16th, 17th of April, when Venus conjuncts that degree. And then when Mars conjuncts that degree, April 30th through May 3rd. So, you know, Jupiter will be back in 12 years, no big deal. But, you know, realize that the point of fortune is really here just to kind of say to you, hey, you know, here's your like little treasure chest. If you're willing to open it, go ahead and open it, and it might actually bring you something that's really positive. So through a creative endeavor, or through wanting to go and have fun, or through showing up at and going to a bar, you end up meeting other creative people who you collaborate with, or you end up meeting someone you fall in love with. Fifth house is about bars, it's recreation, it's going out and having fun. So surround yourself with that. It's going to be really inspiring, but you haven't lost it. It's leaving the conjunction, but it's still within the fifth house, and it's going to be very strong really all the way until Mars and Venus leave Pisces. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely watch that video and you can read those Sabian symbols. All right, so that was okay. So we've got Brandon, Annabelle, Olympia. I saw Crystal and Richard. Thank you guys for waiting. We'll take care of Ellie later. So Brandon, June 3rd, 97. And that was 3:55 a.m. in Columbus, Georgia. I have a fitness, holistic health Instagram, TikTok. Haven't been really posting, but I will soon now that I've lost 85 pounds. Way to go. Good for you. Based on transits, natal placements, when can I see it begin to take off? You're welcome. Well, first of all, congrats on losing 85 pounds. That's amazing. So social media, seeing stuff take off. So we want to look at, I have a couple questions for you, so let me know if you're here. If you're putting this together, is it going to be you talking about like the process of how you lost the weight and like you wanting to help other people? Do you have other people who have taken your advice or whatever who have also experienced results, and are they willing to give you reviews, or are they willing to speak on your behalf? Because it's all about Aquarius, right? So you've got Mars and Saturn and Venus all setting up in your 11th house. This is important because it's literally merging your career ruler and also Saturn, which is your career ruler is Saturn, but it's merging with Mars and Venus. So you need the help of other people. So I personally feel like it can be amazing for you to show your how you created change, right? Like there's no better way of being able to promote your services than being like, look at how I improved my life. And not only did I improve my life, but I improved my body, my health, all of my emotions, however, there's a lot that comes with losing, weight. But I think you need other people. I think of like setting up a group. This is just food for thought because you're coming into Saturn conjunct your Jupiter, that it would be really smart for you to start a group and like, yeah, have a TikTok or have a Instagram, but possibly like a closed group where people can subscribe and you can relay this information and you can teach them, right? This is where the kids in the 90s are going to do really well. Uranus and Jupiter, oh my God, like, Saturn's there right now. It's saying if you build a business, you're building a business because of peer reviews, because of friends, because of experiences where people can share. Eventually that might expand to you bringing other people onto that closed group, or other people who might teach other modalities that can help with health and wellness. So like launching something, I would say you really want to show up the next 2 months and you got to be doing it. And it's also about other people who you're going to be meeting who can help you bring it together, right? Because you could have other friends that can collaborate with you and help you. Success, I feel like, is perhaps when Mars is coming into conjunction with Jupiter. So you could see success really starting as early as April, right? But that's if you apply yourself, if the consistency is happening. The fact that Mars and Saturn are aligning makes me feel like you want to watch out for trying to give this job to a friend. Like if you want to collaborate with people, that's great, but there can be some issues in terms of just resources or how you could pay people to help you grow this or help you do this. Mars and Saturn, that conjunction is rough, but when it's on your Jupiter, you're going to learn something. So to me, it seems like it's like mastering, like just focusing on how to network. And I think that's really what you're going to be doing now. I would love to see when you have planets that are going to be trining your 11th house. This will be more so in Gemini after the retrograde that we had at the end of May, or will have at the end of May going into June. I think you're going to see a lot more building when planets get into Gemini, because it's going to be like, cool, now I'm talking to people, maybe I'm working with people, I'm giving advice, I have subscribers, and you'll still make updates. Like that Mercury retrograde in Gemini, you're going to make updates. That's definitely going to be something that's going to happen. And I feel like you're going to start seeing the results then, more so in June. And then also, Mars is then going to go into Gemini and it's going to be trining. Still, notice there's 2 retrogrades that are going to be happening in Gemini, right? So it's going to be, well, what do Geminis want? Do they do this or do they do that? So definitely the Mercury retrograde is a time to refine it. The Mars retrograde might be a period where you're possibly talking to people, working with people one-on-one, and maybe creating like an ebook or a course, or you're creating like a club or a group, and you're working with people in that way to be able to also still have like a lifestyle where you can kind of free, right? So there's something there. But yeah, I really feel like definitely June, definitely like September, October. I mean, you can see things really kind of like revving up, especially as you see Mars come into conjunction with Venus. You're going to have clients, right? And you might have worked with people this year or given advice to them this year and had that traction, and then see that, now they've all, they've had amazing results. They come back to you 4, 5, 6, 7 months later and they go, look at how I've changed. And you're going to go, that's amazing. I love this. Thank you so much. Can I have a testimonial? And something like that will also start up in October. I could also see just like the effects of your content benefiting other people, and then they share it with other people who then share it with other people, right? So you want to think it's all air, so it's all different. It's communicative, it's sharing information, relaying information. Focus on the networking the next month or two, focusing on bringing people together, creating a group, and really think bigger than just having a TikTok or an Instagram or a Facebook. And I say this very seriously because Saturn on Jupiter may try to limit that information. You might find that you're getting censored. It might make sense to like go and look at what other apps that are out there. I don't know anything about it, but I've been looking at some of the same stuff for my course. And I was looking at like Discord earlier. It looks like that, Clubhouse. I mean, there's all kinds of different apps that are doing this, so you can actually go and talk, and you can share information within a closed group. I would go in that direction because eventually that's what you're going to have to do. So you want to drive traffic to something that's going to be more private, okay? Congrats on that. It's amazing. Saturn is on your Jupiter, so it's time to get serious about your goals, but it's sextiling your ascendant. So that's really wonderful. You're in a very powerful period right now. And you're doing all that before your Saturn return. Way to go. Super proud of you. There you go. You're already networking. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate your donation and joining level 1. Appreciate it. That's a lot to lose that kind of weight, man. I remember like 2 years ago, I lost like 65 pounds. It's not easy. Yeah, you're building a lot of community. You know, a lot of people, I sound old saying this, they're waking up who are your age because they're like, we need to create new systems. You have to be present for that right now because there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you to work with other people who will want your services and they'll want to help you. And you're still in your learning phase. I say that because Jupiter and Neptune are on your south node, so you're still going to be learning. But yeah. Okay. So we've got Annabelle. I'm on the live right now. I have an astrology question. Let me know if you're here. Oh, you just sent me your birthday. Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. I was like, where is it? There you go. Networking. All right, so June 19th, 1980. And that was at what time? Oh no, that's a different person. Sorry, you guys have the same first name. Yeah, so we'll take care. We're going to give you the information in the chat. We're going to have somebody chat to you, but you have to make a donation of $40 for a question. You just join memberships. So level 3, you get a reading. No worries. So there's two Annas. I'm talking to Miss Jones. There we go. June 4th, 1993. Both Geminis, though. Lots of Geminis in here. And what time were you born? There we go. Okay, that was Minneapolis, Minnesota, 7:50 p.m. Oops. Oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong here? I need my glasses. Sorry, guys. There we go. Sorry, guys. We got a couple different people in here with the same name. Okay, so we have you here. So 6/4/93 at 7:50 p.m. Okay. All right, so let's get to your question. My Saturn's in Pisces returns first week of March of 2023. My Saturn is conjunct the IC. I've been contemplating the steps necessary to launch a unique and nourishing professional business. So much has been accomplished in the last decade, let alone since 2015, and yet much is left to be completed before I launch. Not one to rush a thing, just wondering if you have any gut instincts for that time, insights for that time. My chart's Gemini Sun, Sag Moon, Sag Ascendant. Okay, cool. All right. So, couple things. Whole sign, yes, Saturn is in your 4th. And your Saturn is at a 0 degree. So one thing that I would say to you is that your Saturn is like a baby Saturn. So basically you have to not wait until your Saturn's return. You're actually preparing now because Jupiter went through there, I'm assuming. And I guess it really depends on where are you going to be doing this business, right? Because Saturn in the 3rd still needs to work out something relating to communication. It can be about learning. It can be about information. Notice that it's a slight square. It's not a heavy square, but you do have, you know, Saturn that squares both your ascendant and also your nodes. So looking at this, I kind of feel inclined to tell you, timeline wise, if you're going to see big career changes happening when you have a positive transit to your Mercury, because Mercury rules your 12th house. Excuse me, your 10th house. Excuse me. So, yeah, you have plenty of time to prep. I would advise you that because you're in a 6th house year this year, or it's all going to be about organization and timing. So you want to use like the eclipses in Taurus to organize, declutter, and work on timing. That's a big theme right now, actually, because Saturn's in your 3rd, and Saturn's actually squaring your Pluto. So it's also just about, I think, having better limitations when it comes to media use, being on your phone, timing. I mean, a lot of this stuff sounds like silly, but it's like literal. And you'll start feeling the effects of Saturn actually later this year before your Saturn return physically happens. But yeah, whole sign Saturn's on your IC, so it's going to be about getting grounded. But your Saturn return, because I think Saturn's going to retrograde, if I remember correctly, in the early degrees, it's going to feel a little extended. Yeah. So it looks like Saturn is going to get up to... Yeah, so Saturn's going to get up to, yeah, it's literally going to be conjunct almost all next year. Yeah, you're totally fine waiting. I would say Saturn on the IC in Pisces is you need the space to have peace. It's really important, especially right after your Saturn's return. Saturn will go deeper into your 4th house. Placidus, it'll really be on your IC, and it's going to square your moon. So that also is going to bring about themes like, do I need to live close to family? Do I love my home? You know, am I dealing with needing to take care of an ailing parent? Like you have Saturn that will conjunct your IC and then Neptune. Just from experience, when I had my Saturn return and it was conjunct Neptune, it was like taking care of a parent that was sick and in and out of the hospital. I'm not saying that's what will happen to you, but realize that Saturn and Neptune together are going to need a lot of peace, and they're going to need a lot of isolation, and you're not going to be able to deal with like a lot of disharmony or anything that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. So I would say actually with Jupiter going into Pisces this year, like where do you want to live? Like what feels like home, you know? Yes, peace first. You want to find the peace. Get situated, get grounded, especially before a Saturn on the IC. That's the lowest part of the chart, by the way. So for you to have Saturn conjunct the IC whole sign, it going through your transit, it's going to be kind of lonely, and you're going to need a lot of meditation and a lot of space and a lot of spirituality. You might deal with some Saturn 4th house stuff, like issues with a parent. And then when it squares your moon, it's also going to be about, I think, reevaluating the relationship with your home or with one of your family members. yeah, it's coming. And I actually am a fan of Saturn Neptune because it becomes, when you get beyond like the melancholy of it, it becomes something that's incredibly spiritual, and it can be very grounding for you. And it's going to square your moon. So yeah, you want to keep really looking at your astrology through and through, with what it's actually preparing you for. Not to mention the fact that like right now you got Pluto squaring your Venus. So I think you're thinking really long and hard about perhaps making smart decisions when it comes to, you know, what you're doing with your money, with your resources, what your goals are, making sure it's in alignment. Yeah. Saturn conjunct the IC is a lot. Yeah, anything conjunct the IC, that's the most sensitive part of the natal chart. I guess the good news is that the challenges that you may go through, at least they will be very private. And the problem is if you have a daytime chart, so if your sun is at the top part of the horizon, if it's from the 7th through the 12th, Saturn lessons are harder for you, unfortunately. It's just the way that it goes. So I would say you can plan as much as you want for your Saturn return. Even knowing a lot about astrology and stuff, you can't always plan it, because until you're in it, then it's like, oh shit, and you're going to be in it. And it's very important because not just to the placement, but thereafter Saturn and Neptune are going to meet, which means you need to be self-sufficient, look for a place that has clean water, make sure that it's going to be close to nature, make sure there isn't going to be any sick or ailing family members because their energies can affect you. So living with family is probably a no-no. Yep. And definitely consider getting a Saturn return reading. And I would advise you actually, because it's going to be the most helpful, probably to go and talk to somebody when you're actually having trines to Saturn. So like Gemini season can be great because you're going to have trines from your 7th house to your 3rd, and you'll get a lot of information if that's something that you want to do. Just food for thought. But your 7th house is your astrologer. So having planets go through there several times this year, it makes me feel like you might bounce back and forth with, like, maybe you have a psychic, maybe you have a tarot reader, maybe you have an astrologer, and you've got 2 different people, and seeing if you're getting the same information. I don't know if that relates. Later this year, because of the Mars retrograde in Gemini, it's going to square Neptune, it's going to oppose your moon. It will be harder to make change for people who have mutable placements later this year. It'll be more confusing and things will be ending. So I think you can't really plan until we see where you're at closer to the end of this year, right? Awesome. Now I'm going to do a Saturn video. I'm going to do a Saturn return video, and I'm going to do one for this group of people, probably the Aquarius and then the Pisces. So hopefully that's helpful for you. We've got Olympia, Guadalupe, Francesca, Taurus. I love your name. Let's see. So let's put your info up here. Well, thank you for pinning it. It takes a second. There's like a delay on my end. There we go. Thank you. All right, so let's put you in 8/6/1989. And that is in San Diego at 3:16 p.m. Okay, so you said how to navigate the future. Have been, of course, going through it. Divorced in 2018, fired in 2021 because of the mandate. Now working remotely for less money than I used to earn at Kaiser. Living with my parents. I have a 15-year-old boy. Bachelor's degree in psychology. Do oracle readings. Reiki master. But I'm so in limbo and stuck. Thank you. Okay, another Sag rising, huh? So I want to make sure this is right. PM. Okay. So some stuff that I'm looking at would be the fact that Saturn is coming up on your North Node in the 3rd, ruled by Uranus, and you have Uranus and Saturn in the 1st. I've seen a lot of Sag risings with the cap stelliums that feel super lost. I would say to you that while this does seem like a stressful and a difficult time, Jupiter moving into Pisces and offering you peace from the storm and assistance and living with family is actually a blessing. Jupiter's your chart ruler. So bringing you back home gives you the space. Obviously, it's not what you want, but it is security for now. And I would say actually take it. I also feel like for you that your home stuff, especially when Mars shows up, I think will be more enjoyable. Obviously, that's going to be in like closer to April, mid-April through May, but it is going to be a little bit more of having to really kind of stick to making some changes here. The fact that Mars and Saturn are sitting on the North Node, I would say that that makes me feel like it's an upgrade, right? You're upgrading what your side hustle is. Mars rules your 5th house, so that's either your child, your children, your business, your oracle readings. I would say Saturn coming into conjunction is going to be about money and resources. Mars is going to be like that demand. So personally, I would say, like, are you charging enough for your services, right? Are you charging enough for your services? I also wonder, because I do see you going back to work. I mean, you can stay doing what you're doing now, but both the eclipses and the retrograde that's coming in Taurus and Gemini later this spring, May going into June, is likely to present another job opportunity, I believe. And that will happen closer to when the Sun-Mercury Cazimi happens. So you might actually find that it's like, oh, I'm going back to work, or there is a document, or there is something that comes out that kind of vindicates the whole situation, and like now, you know, I can go back and they're not requiring it, and suddenly you can get a job again. It can also be that there's a class action lawsuit that happens as a result of this because it's activating your 9th house, where you might be entitled to some compensation, or you can talk to legal groups or whatever, because they, I don't know anything about this. I know that happened with Kaiser people, but are you a part of a union, and do you know anything about them seeking legal action over this when this stuff starts to clear out? Has that come up at all? Because you might actually hear about it. But I guess really what I'm getting at is going back to the transits that are setting up for you the next month or two. What are you learning? What are you focusing on? The 3rd house can be like, are you keeping up with social media? Are you writing about your experience? Are you really focusing on driving more online sales? Are you possibly taking a course to learn more about something? It's all setting up for you in your 3rd house. So it's literally going to be also starting the process of getting you ready to move, so you don't have to stay there, right? So does that mean that you will move? Not necessarily. I could see you getting really antsy and wanting your own space in April, but maybe the motivation and the goal is to move, but you're like, okay, I need to focus on charging more for my services, or really pushing this more, or getting into a job that's going to give me more so I can actually leave. And I would say probably when Mars and Jupiter go into Aries, you can see a lot more business happening if you apply yourself. And when Jupiter retrogrades back into Pisces, perhaps maybe you'll get ready to move, and it's looking like the move could go a little bit more smoothly in the fall, when Saturn conjuncts your North Node again, and then, you know, you have Venus in Aries and it's trining your ascendant. Think of the process, right? Like, do you want to do it quickly because you want to move and then possibly have a bit of a rough time and struggle? Or do you want to start adding new tools to your toolbox as you have these transits in your 3rd house? Go and learn about online marketing. Go and learn about sales. Focus on, you know, promoting. Start a podcast. Start making videos talking about what you do, right? Anything like that. Especially because you have Uranus and Saturn conjunct, I'm wondering, would it be beneficial for you to do more of that energy work with your hands? Can you do that digitally? Can you do Reiki sessions remotely? Do you want to start offering that? Can you start doing that for people regularly, and maybe having people who are coming in regularly, and like you're, you know, doing work on them remotely, and you have a set time that you do that work. You can do it from home, and you can also start focusing on channeling the energy. But it's more about adding tools to your toolbox right now, more than anything. And I would say that, you know, if you plan this accordingly, I think the move could go a lot smoother, and I think it could be a lot easier.
down the line, but that's not really going to happen until, you know, later this year. So let me know, check back in, realize that there's also going to be lots of dynamics changing going on with relationships. Mars going retrograde in your 7th could possibly bring a really prominent relationship for you the fall of this year, which could also prompt you possibly moving or having a change with where you're living, because Mars is going to oppose your ascendant and square your Jupiter Neptune. So people from the past can come back, baby daddy can be hanging around, or be trying to say, hey, why don't you come stay, or let us help you. Something like that can happen. Let me know if that resonates with you. Good luck, because it's a really important time to really focus on your thoughts and how you're communicating and what you're manifesting. You have to pay attention to that. And Reiki can be healing with the hands. You know, Aquarius is hands-on healing, but are there other modalities and things that you want to learn? I would look more into the distant healing, because I think there's a connection there. Or learning astrology. It's a good time to learn astrology. Okay, so Crystal, down to the wire. Okay, cool, we're back. Thank you guys for waiting. Sorry, we had a weird glitch. I don't know what happened. We lost the feed. Everybody who was waiting was like, no! All right, so looks like I'm back. All right. Let me know if you guys can see what I'm saying. I think you should. If I can see it, you guys can. All right, so let me get back to Crystal, pull her info. July 6, 1991. That was in Kingston, New York. Glad we were able to save the feed. Sometimes that happens. We get totally disconnected. All right. So I am enjoying this fixed sign talk with the squares because I know that I have this coming up as well. I'm curious how you think it might play out for me. We'll be traveling at the end of March into April. Okay. So, yeah. Yours is going to be interesting because it's in your 3rd house and you've got Mars and Venus, ruler of your chart, and your 7th house meeting with Saturn. So it can be about important trips, important conversations, things relating to how you communicate. Personally, just from what I've seen for Scorpio rising charts who have Pluto in the 12th, it's been like learning how to communicate more peacefully, and communicating in a way that doesn't feel super rigid or fear-based or intense. It's equally working pretty hard on you also because you've got Uranus coming into an opposition with your Pluto. Now, if you read whole sign, or if you listen to your ascendant horoscope, you're going to hear things like, oh, you're changing and your partners are changing, and, you know, you're going to possibly have to move or move in with somebody or have a conversation about living stuff. Possibly you can have some conflicts and some squabbles with some neighbors. You could have some squabbles with some siblings or extended family members. And there can be needing to kind of air things out, right? Because you're going to see Mars, Venus, and Saturn align. A lot of Scorpio risings have seen that. Also, that can be the case. I think for you, all these planets meeting in the 4th can be about stuff going on with aunts, uncles, and siblings. People needing to move in and out of the house, back and forth with parents, stuff like that. So it should have already kind of started showing you where the tension and the conflict is. I don't know if you've seen any of this happen recently. I would say be incredibly careful when you're traveling or when you're driving. Really hear me on this, because when Mars comes into a square with Pluto, this energy is going to start up the 20th. It's pretty strong the 20th through the 22nd. And also when Mars comes into a square with Pluto here, March 27th until it leaves the conjunction to Saturn on the 4th. Be careful when you're driving. Okay, you have to travel to be there. There you go, traveling to go and see your brother. Be careful while you're driving. To me, it seems like the travel part is stressful, And there's some issues happening where it's like, oh, you know, is somebody going to make it on time? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When my husband had these transits last year, we were getting married. And we didn't think that his sister was going to be able to make it to the wedding because she had to fly from Chicago. She had a work gig the night before. She had to fly from Chicago to like Atlanta, and she had like a 1 hour layover, and she was going to land literally 2 hours before our wedding. And we were like, she's not going to make it. Nobody thought she was going to make it. So it was the stress and all the communication and people calling each other and trying to arrange things, trying to make sure everything went according to time. She showed up, but it was pretty fucking stressful because nobody really knew she was going to make it. So something like that could happen. And he's also a Scorpio rising. And I would just say watch for your tone and how you communicate when things arise that you have no control over. Mars is you, and Saturn is also the sibling. So I could see like lots of intense conversations with planning, or, you know, if somebody's late, can you pick that person up? Are they going to be here on time? It's not easy energy, but also it could be post drama from the family if there was like a squabble with another relative. Because it's involving Mars and it's squaring the nodes, you just want to be really careful about how you're communicating with a sibling. That's what I would say to you. Yeah, it's been really stressful planning the trip. Yeah. And likely, because Mars and Saturn is pretty definitive, he forgot his pants. Because scheduling is super rigid with all the conjunctions to Saturn, but it's squaring the nodes, like it's enough to make you want to wash your hands of the situation. And if there's enough drama, it could be a situation where you're like, I don't even know if I want to do this. And you don't want to say something like that, okay? Just heads up. You don't want to say anything. Be very mindful of your words, because Scorpio risings, if you guys are listening, when Mars and Saturn come into conjunction, okay, it's in your whole sign fourth. It means family karma is being dealt with. It needs to be settled. It likely involves you and another person, you and a family member. Family karma in regards to weddings. Venus is wedding. So it's supposed to be a joyous occasion. And I look at this and I'm like, if you already don't communicate well, be mindful of your words. There can be some really harsh things that could be said that could literally be enough for somebody to go, you know what, I'm not coming. Or, okay, I don't want you to come. And then it's like, then there's going to be some real conflicts, right? Part of this is just Saturn in general in your third. It's at a 4, it's in Aquarius. So it's about, you know, kind of having issues with communicating with relatives in general. Just for shits and giggles, what day is he getting married? Because this is like horrible astrology to be getting married. I have to be really honest with you. I can't imagine any, I mean, there's some exception, but I really just can't imagine there being anybody who's really going to benefit from getting married and under these conditions. You don't want to see Mars and Venus and Saturn conjunct. It can be great for commitment. Yeah, you're probably going to have to do that. I have a Scorpio rising sister, and when she was going through these transits, it was my wedding that was stressing her out, and there was definitely lots of barbs that were exchanged. And things, yeah, it can get really sticky. So I would just say, just be very careful, because when you see the Mars square Saturn or Pluto, people will cut people off and just be like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And it'd be like, because something that was said, then you're not invited. So just be careful. It's, I don't agree with the marriage either. Yeah, I can tell just looking at your transits. April 2nd, not that it matters, I'm just being nosy. Yeah, it looks like families may not mesh well. There might be some things that are said at the wedding, because just after the wedding, the moon is going to conjunct Uranus. It's going to oppose Pluto, and it's going to square. So whatever happens, it might even happen at the wedding, and like certain relatives don't agree, or things that are going on. And you got to do what you got to do, you know? If it's just watching your P's and Q's, so be it, so you can kind of keep the peace. The problem is, Scorpio won't trade peace for honesty. Scorpio risings are like, fuck peace, I'm going to be honest, this is what I think. And it can really, you know, yeah. I would not want to get married with Moon conjunct Uranus square Venus and Saturn, personally. To me, this seems a little forced, because Venus is conjunct Juno, Saturn, and Mars, or it's rushed for whatever reason. None of my business. It's also happening to go on when it's opposing your Mars and Venus. So you would rather be doing other things. But I would say, you know, it is what it is. Try to be peaceful about it, and pray for them, because man, that's one hell of a wedding chart. I would not want that for my wedding day. Sorry. It's part part of the reason why I got married in November, because I knew that most of the transits in the spring of this year were just going to be, yeah, they were not going to be ideal. So, yep, it is, and that's going to definitely come through with their wedding. Please circle back, let us know what happens, because now I'm involved. I want the tea. How did the wedding go? How did it look? Was it a total? Part of me wonders: is the wedding even going to happen? I don't like saying that, but is it going to happen? Because there's so much opposition to it in this chart, but equally, a lot of world events and things that are taking place that make me wonder. You know, is it going to be delayed? I don't know. I don't know. Let me know. Circle back. Let us know. Okay, so I've got Richard. And yeah, I'm sure you're cackling like a Scorpio rising would be. You're cackling like, I knew it. I already want to dress it better. Please let me know, because most likely with your Saturn and Mars and all of that in opposition, there's some not only issues with getting there and being there, but also just like being like not a fan of how the wedding goes, or, you know, whatever. But, you know, people are so weird about weddings until you have to actually plan one. It's like, I'll never go to a wedding and complain anymore, because it's definitely a lot of work. All right, Richard, you're the real MVP. Are you here? Richard's like asleep somewhere right now. September 13th, 1981. And that was at 7:10 p.m. And that was in New Jersey. Trying to spell this. Like, how do you even pronounce this? He's here! Hey, everybody, give it up for Richard. Because he got to listen to everybody's problems and he waited so patiently. Thank you. You're super welcome, Crystal. Richard, how's it going? What does the rest of the year look like in terms of transits, and what should I be aware of? I'll give you the main hitting points, because I could go on and on and on and on forever. Wow, look at your astrology right now, dude. You got Jupiter and Neptune setting up on your ascendant. Do you nap a lot? You tired? You feel a little drained, a little run down? The horoscope for Virgos this year is wonderful. Jupiter and Neptune setting up 7 houses from your sun is about relationships and partnerships. Okay, so a lot of what you read, being a Pisces rising and a Virgo sun, is going to be sometimes contradicting. I want you, if you're not already, get in the habit of reading Pisces, because it's going to help you make sense of physical timing and stuff, because your sun is actually in Virgo. But themes for this year that seem to be prominent: the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction on your ascendant. Neptune is like ecstasy or agony, and when Neptune is conjunct the ascendant at 23, you become spiritually different. You can be extremely emotional, very sensitive, absorbing a lot vibrationally and energetically. And when you see Pisces, you see like waterworks, right? So it can be finally having relief, letting go, letting things dissolve, being emotional, maybe just being more aware of how emotions affect your body and things that have not been dealt with. And I would just say you're just going to absorb a lot. You want to be careful about who you're around, what you're around, right? Large groups, anything on television that promotes fear or violence, because it can send you into like a Pisces spiral. Spices. That's what I'm going to start calling these kinds of Pisces. But yeah, it can send you into a bit of a spiral, and you can either believe in the reality that's being projected in the world, and you can become very emotional and kind of like, oh my God, what's going to happen, and just fall apart. Or you can be meditating more, grounding your energy out more, being by nature, willingly being on your own, because Neptune does deal with kind of like isolation, and really focusing on getting your vibes up, right? You have a Pisces moon, so there's a lot of Pisces energy. You were actually born on a full moon. So a couple hours after you're born, it was a full moon. So you really understand the dynamic of Pisces and Virgo. You have a lot of that polarity in your chart. I feel like it's a period of you seeking spiritual renewal. So you might be like getting readings. You might be talking to healers. You might be going to therapy. You might need to deal with like a deep-seated emotional issue that's been trapped in your body from childhood. But you may also get more into like dreams and dream dictionaries or past life regression or meditation or anything like that that's from past lives, because that's the 12th house. And I'm watching how it's going to start sextiling to planets in Taurus. So it's literally about your body and feeling like more comfortable in your body. I think another big theme is the fact that this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is squaring your natal Neptune. So it kind of feels like things are changing. It's almost like you're like, I'm changing, relationships are changing, jobs changing. By changing, I have seen it materialize for some people with these transits. That's like, I ended a relationship, now I'm alone, I hate my job, I want to quit, and I want to relocate. Like it's going to go ding, 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 like it's going to hit everything at one time. And Pisces is about letting it fall away. Why? Well, it's the last sign of the zodiac. So it's trying to do this because I think when Saturn crosses your ascendant, which won't be for a while, but Saturn's going to go into Pisces, so you're going to start feeling it. Perhaps maybe you have started a whole new lifestyle, like you're doing something different. Like Saturn conjunct your moon could have you going, my goals are different. I don't want to live in this country. I want to live in that country. I don't want to live in this city. I want to live in that city. I need more peace. I need to be away from, a lot of like busyness. You're going to be seeking a lot more peace, right? Pisces is peace. And I guess the positive side of the 12th house is if you learn the lesson of willingly kind of being on your own and separating yourself, it can become very spiritual. So it can be great for spiritual renewal. It can be great for completing high education. I quit my job and I got a new one and I moved out of state. You're right on time. You got triggered early, okay, because the eclipses were happening in the eclipses were happening in Sagittarius and in Gemini. So this is a really, really great thing to teach. So last year, when, let me go back. Last year, in 2021, when the South Node was going through Richard's 10th house, he quit his job and got a new one and then moved. So South Node through the 10th, eclipses, leaves his job, gets a new one, North Node in the 4th, right? It was all squaring your moon. It was also to help you feel like you could have more quality time or peace of mind. Now we're seeing Jupiter hitting your moon, so it's going to be you being more creative, reflecting a lot more on your childhood, perhaps themes relating to romantic partners or possibly even children. Jupiter hitting your 5th house can be that, or realizing that's a goal or desire. Really, it could go a million different ways. But a lot of the things that you needed to put in motion, you already did. Now Jupiter, Neptune crossing your ascendant, like this is a once in a lifetime transit. So and it happens to be happening at 22 and 23 degrees. So it's going to be about you having a spiritual upgrade and becoming more aware. And I think just kind of waking up. Ironically, it's all happening in opposition to your sun. So it's going to make you feel like mind, body, help, mindfulness. It's all important. It's all tied together. Maybe you feel like you want to help a cause, or you feeling like you want to jump in and help people. And so that can be something else that comes up for you. Left a toxic job also in the creative field. Much happier now. See? So now you get all the goodies because Jupiter's on your moon. And I'm wondering, like, do you work with design, film, photography, anything like that? Anything that moves, editing? Or is it more like working on things to, like, how should I put this? Really getting people's like attention psychologically. Right? So it could be like somebody who's really great at like marketing or advertising and they know how to like capture their audience or whatever. Are you doing something like that? Because you got that Pisces moon. But I think it's great for you creatively. I'm really excited. I think that it's also setting you up in a way where you can have a much more peaceful life. But a lot of the Pisces stuff is going to be about being willing to be cool on your own. There you go. Design, creative marketing. Yep. That's really good for you. And you probably have a lot more space, and you probably have your own little private room that you work in, or maybe you have like a home office or something. You might put together a studio this year, or you might start doing more creative work, right? It can be in the arts, it can be visual design, but something that's more creative, that's more personal, right? Because it's hitting your moon, ruler of the 5th. But just know that Jupiter and Neptune are also squaring your natal Neptune, so your beliefs are changing. And I would say the other big takeaway from the astrology this year is Jupiter going into Aries. It's going to start to oppose your Saturn and your Jupiter. So there is much more of a need to like focus on partnership and relationships June, July. It's going to be a theme, and like what other people need versus what you need. And whether that's like, you know, a relationship with somebody professionally or somebody who you're actually in a relationship with. Sometimes when I see Saturn in opposition to Jupiter, it's like a lot of back and forth. So maybe if you are in a relationship, you're needing to be much more available for your partner while maintaining your own personal endeavors, but, you know, being there for them. Or on the flip side, it's like I have seen people when they go through the Jupiter opposed Jupiter in this angle, you could meet somebody, but they live somewhere else, right? Very interesting that you have Saturn right now that's in your, technically it's in your Placidus 12th. And so being that Saturn's been trining Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury, are you looking for somebody? Have you met somebody? Are they culturally different? Do they live in a different place? You know, are you trying to meet somebody at a distance? Is that something that's gone on for you? Just food for thought. But things get a little bit more colorful later this year when Mars goes retrograde in your 4th. So that's important because I think that there's going to be even more changes going on for you in regards to your home or living situation. Not trying to leave you at a cliffhanger, but we don't really know what's going to happen yet. I'll just say that with Mars coming into your 3rd, 4th house, September through February, squaring Neptune, squaring a bunch of placements in Sag and also your 7th house, relationships and home stuff are changing yet again, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on relationships and home and living situation stuff going on, or talking to family in some way, September, October, November. You would definitely be one of those people who, once again, because you're having such squares this year, that when Gemini season hits, so May through June, really pay attention. And then when September through the new year hits, pay attention, because it's going to make all 4 things in your chart change again. It doesn't have to be negative, but it's very changeable when it's mutable. So it's like certain events are going to change, and it all revolves around Gemini. How you communicate, express your emotions, what the systems are within your home, stuff in regards to doing business and being able to improvise and doing work from home in some way, being more independent. Because you're going to have Saturn in your 12th house for a hot minute. It's going to be a couple years. So I would say you may find that you're needing to do more work from home. It's very possible. And needing to find new ways of generating income from working from home. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Hopefully that's helpful. I'm pretty sure we got everybody. I don't know. Did that other person join level 3? I don't think so. So that's fine. Yes, it'll be available. When we're done streaming, you'll be able to go back and you'll be able to listen to this. This was a particularly long one. So everybody who stayed and asked questions and donated and listened, I appreciate it. I'll be back next week on Saturday, the 19th, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do live tarot readings. You're welcome. Follow back up. Let me know how it goes, Richard. I think it's going to be quite eventful. Tomorrow is Sunday. I'm going to do my astrology weather. It's all going to be about the full moon in Virgo. So we're going to discuss that. And yeah, I'm going to try to put those Saturn return videos out for you guys this week. So stay tuned for that if that's something you have questions about. I think I'll talk about, like I said, my experience with Saturn return. And then I will do a video that's for the Saturn Aquarius people. So if that's something that piques your interest, let me know. Please like, comment, share, even if you just give me a thumbs up. That really helps the channel. We're seeing a lot more traction. So the more interaction we have, like these lives, and people who want to like leave a comment or whatever, it's super helpful. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday night, and I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.